fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get involved!
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
What does it take to win? Is it something you're born with? Is it the grind? Insanely precise. Totally free, and at one with the game. Or maybe it's just getting to that place where nothing else matters. Nothing in the way of winning.
Good evening all and welcome back to SimSpeed TV. It's a Friday night here as we continue our coverage of the 2022 V8SCOPS season in general, which means of course we start off the weekend's action with the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series as we head to Donington Park for the 9th round of the season here in 2022. And well, after last week's action with the Flat Sixes and the Jetta Cup, we turn our attention to the 2-litre Tourers as the main event for this evening's races, with the Jetta Cup, of course, as always, continuing to be our secondary support series for this year so far. My name is Danny Yeaman, here in the commentary box with Jay Kennedy alongside me tonight on production as well. And, well, yeah, the back-to-back nature of this part of the calendar, Jay, thanks to the lovely thing that is called real-life events having to force calendar shuffles here in the sim world. Means that it's been a pretty rapid turnaround for us, but back at it once again, and as always, back into the racing with these guys here tonight, and of course, a different support class to get the action underway this evening here at Donington Park, and that is not quite Donington Park.
We were joking before when I was refixing up the track map that remember that that's not the right track map, and I forgot to change it back. We'll change it now and we'll get the right one up. But hello everyone. Yeah, Donington Park's been good fun in this series, and yeah, back-to-back races. I think if you've forgotten that we're doing back-to-back a couple of times this season, this is the last time for the season. Also the last time we run the Jetta Cup until Bathurst as well. But Donington Park, what a track, what a famous facility this one is. Opened back in the 30s, closed for a little while through the 50s, and reopened again in the late 70s. Hosted Formula One most recently in 1993. The European Grand Prix, very, very famous circuit. Heaps of passing opportunities. The undulation promotes extra passing as well. So the elevation changes help with the overtaking, but more so, the overtaking can be helped by those heavy braking zones into the Melbourne hairpin, through the S's, and then through Goddard's at the final corner. Lots of passing in the final section.
Yep, that will be the prime places to watch this evening, let alone when we get to the action on Sunday night as well. The Grand Prix configuration here at Donington is certainly going to be one to watch for that final sector, let alone the opening sectors, which obviously are so much about the flow to set up the lap around here. So yeah, with a tick over 4 kilometers of asphalt to work with here tonight, it's going to be a good venue with plenty of tradition, and to carry it on tonight, the Tourers will be, of course, our main game. So here's how the championship stands in the series going into tonight's racing here. Of course, 2 races for the 2-litre Tourers as always as the main event. 20 lap opening race, and they'll move into a second 20 lap race later on this evening. The split format there for them. So the crucial thing, of course, is championship points going into this evening's action. And, well, it's been a little while since we saw them, but currently sitting on top of the standings, it's Matthew Pluck, and for number 51 for Kiwi Sim Racing, but he's not ahead by all that much. A mere 3 points clear of his teammate Carl Sampson there, and then Dylan Jordan officially entered as under Inspire Net Racing, but certainly part of the Kiwi Sim Racing crew. Just another 30 points back there, Jay. And, Well, the first man outside the KSR team and conglomerate is Rhys Garner there in P4. Still only 60 points off the race lead, championship lead, I should say, after this point at the season, which has been several rounds in. It is certainly a good result given the number of points on offer. I should say, this is the 4th round that the 2-liter tourists are participating in for this year.
Yeah, of course, they were supposed to participate back in May, but we had to switch out the Donington round from there and put it in this weekend. Of course, it was supposed to run the weekend of the real-life Bathurst 12-hour, and from this point on, the 2-liter Tourers will be on every single round of V8SCOPS racing except for Sandown. So it's going to be pretty cool to watch. And of course, the next round at Phillip Island, they'll be on Friday and Saturday night, 2 nights of racing, a little bit longer races. We saw that when we had them on the Friday and Saturday night at Montreal, it was very, very fun to watch. So looking forward to that. The championship points are a lot closer than we may have thought as well. So when we cast our minds back to Twin Ring Motegi, the racing was very, very action-packed, and it's going to be very, very exciting to watch tonight as they're currently out there in qualifying at the moment, and the time's slowly starting to come in, but it is a very, very competitive-looking qualifying at this stage.
That it certainly is. Your provisional pole sitter, well, Rhys Garner here on track, actually needs to get a time on the board. He's coming to the line now in the 94. Sectors light on up, but does that go onto the board? It does indeed. Unfortunately, though, a little ways back from your provisional pole sitter. The man at the top is Damon Mulqueen in the number 42 Vicinity Sim Racing. But you can see he's got some very close competition in the form both of Ben Faulkner for Race on Oz and Carl Sampson, as we have here on screen, for Kiwi Sim Racing. The fact that we've got 3 cars tonight inside a tenth of a second at the top of the charts, Jay, is certainly looking to be quite promising here, and a little bit more time for these guys in qualifying to move themselves up the charts. That was potentially enough for provisional pole, and indeed it was. Carl Sampson goes and moves the yardstick quite a ways forward there. He's followed through by fellow KSR driver Ewan Baker, the number 34 there for Kiwi Sim Racing, having joined the series last week at the last time out for these guys at Motegi. He's a wildcard, able to join the series for the remainder of the season there. So KSR certainly bringing all the guns to the circuit for the remainder of the season. It would seem Hayden Kirk there in the 371. I believe that will be an improvement if it counts.
He found a second.
Found a second. I was just waiting to see if he jumped up the timing charts and Waichi doesn't actually gain a spot there despite that healthy improvement, but he certainly gets himself a bit closer to the top of the charts. And well, let's have a look here at Rhys Garner once again. Jay, as I said, 4th place in the championship coming into the racing tonight, but a little bit further back than where he'd probably rather be at this point. He's got time here for one more run in qualifying. Once he gets across the line, put the foot down here out of Goddard's and set up for another time. Into the 137s goes Garner and leapfrogs Hayden Kirk there, who had just moved himself into the 37s as well.
Damon Mulqueen's on a very, very good lap here at the moment, though, so this could be interesting to watch. He completes this run. Of course, running the iRacing heat format, which means it's a hard cutting qualifying, so these guys will probably get one more lap in when they cross the line. Actually, maybe they won't. It'll be very, very tight. They might just miss it.
I think they'll miss out with the best time of 1:36. Mulqueen coming into the final corner now. He apexes basically on at 1 minute 36. So this is it for Mulqueen. Brings it out of Goddard's to the line. Has he got a low 136 into a 136.428? Unfortunately, the end half of that lap has not quite gone his way despite the fastest opening 2 sectors around Donington here. So that will be his session done. Best of 3rd for this evening. Isaac Edwards there for number 15. ICT Marketing Race on Oz.
Off nearly a second.
Does improve, but unfortunately stays in 11th place on the board. But at least closing up the margins there for himself as our drivers make their way around the track. Let's check in here. One of our few Audis out there on track. In fact, one of 2. Tonight, it's Brett O'Keefe in the number 22 machine. Personal best sectors 2 and 3. Jay looking to improve on 139.8 as he comes into Goddard's for his final time in the session. Gets some nice bit of power down here. Can he get the car to the line? Actually brings it across the track. 138.5. That is a healthy improvement, but it will still... Actually, it does, sorry, apologies. Leapfrog Isaac Edwards there for 11th place. Rhys Garner there, unfortunately, does...
He goes to 5th.
Correction, does improve. I thought for a second there it was not quite good enough, but I take that back. He goes from a 37.4 to a 36.6.
The only driver that may improve will be Shane Best. No, he's in the pits, so that should be qualifying done, I believe. Carl Sampson actually will cross the line, so he'll be the last driver to get a lap in. Currently sitting on pole. Will he be able to improve? I think it matters.
Doesn't matter this time, but he does get across the line, and he does go faster. 136.197. He sets the benchmark for tonight and puts himself nearly 2/10 clear of Ewan Baker there to round out the session. So, well, practice times look quite tight. Qualifying times a little bit more spread out this evening. So here's how the lineup for the opening 20-minute race here at Donington Park for the 2-litre Tourers. Carl Sampson, the man on the pole position, the 136.197 in the dying seconds of the session. He timed it just about perfectly there, Jay. Wouldn't have been much chance for anyone right behind him to try and sneak a lap in there as well. It'll be his teammate, Ewan Baker, the number 34 Honda TCR machine, starting on the front row alongside him of sorts, although staggered grids here means that it does have about a car's length advantage. Damon Walqueen, one of our other fast drivers in practice tonight, will start out of 3rd place. He's got Ben Faulkner alongside him for position number 4. Rhys Garther there, another 10th back from Faulkner to start out of 5th. Has got Mandela Pluck alongside him for P6, and very close between those two tonight on the timing charts in qualifying. And last person in the 136s was Matthew Pluck there out of 7th. And then he'll have his Matthew Brunt alongside him, the second of the Audis, or the first of the Audis, sorry, I should say, on the grid tonight, out of position number 8. Hayden Kirk, one of the KSR machines, 371 out of P9, and Shane Best alongside him for 10th place. Brett O'Keefe out of 11th, and Isaac Edwards will be the 12th car to round out the grid for this evening's action here in the 2-litre Tourers, Jay.
As you said before, 2 races for the drivers tonight. Of course, they'll have a bit of a break in between the 2 races. Compulsory pit stop when we get into race 2 as well as ever. And 20 laps for each, or 40 minutes if we need a safety car. Remember, we have had safety cars in nearly every round over the last little while. So surprising how many safety car interventions we've had lately. Full reverse grid in that second race for all 12 runners as well. So capitalizing on a good starting position now. Not as important as it could potentially be down the track. So we get ready to get this one underway.
Time almost out here on the grid time, which means that we'll hear these engines rev themselves up here before we get this race underway here at Donington for the first of 2-litre Tourers. We are green, and a horrendous start for Ewan Baker, having to absolutely spook feed the clutch, it seems. Look at them up the inside of him there, almost 4 wide. In fact, well, call it 4 wide for a moment there as they stream on through. But it'll be Carl Sampson to the lead of the race from the pole position. Mulqueen up into P2, Faulkner up to P3. Rhys Gartner jumps up into P4 as a result. All the drivers on the inside line there making excellent gains as everyone had to get their way around. Baker there off the start. They come on down the hill through Redgate and the Craner curves down to the old hairpin for the first time. Shane Best has already found the grass, and a bit of a helping hand from Brett O'Keefe in the 22 machine. That car well and truly in the fence. Does he get that car going once again? No, the right rear is completely obliterated on Best's machine. He will not be able to get that car back to the pits. He will surely be asking for a tow any moment now. But side by side between Gardner and Mandela. Pluck there. Pluck, though, tucks back in for Copper's corner here before the run onto the back straight this time. As Matthew Brunt behind was dueling with Pluck and Baker, but they're now side by side, and you can see there that right rear completely detached from the 122 machine. We wait for if there'll be a call for a safety car here from race control as they make their way through the S's for the first time. And the safety car is called by race control here, Jay. So unfortunately, not a lap into the race, and we're back getting this field paced up and reset once again here.
There's pretty heavy impact into the wall, so no surprise to see that there's enough damage for the safety car to come out. And we'll pick it up on the virtual racing school replay and see exactly how it happened. I think there's just a little bit interlocking side-by-side action as they're coming down the hill. Very, very easy when you're side-by-side down the hill to not have too much perspective on how much room you've got. It does sort of... Well, it doesn't narrow up. It does feel like the track narrows on you, so... has he done this one alone? He's done it all by himself. May have got the grass on the outside.
Yeah, he definitely got the grass with the right rear corner. That explains the way the cars can violently snapped there on him. And yeah, cold tyres in these TCR class entries, they are quite notoriously bad at having, well, notoriously takes a bit to heat them up. As you watch that right rear, actually both the right side tyres, they're getting the grass as he came down the end of the hill. had the car on the curb there, unfortunately did best, and the curb, well, it disappeared at the bottom of the curves there, Jay, and left his car in the dirt. I think the moment he's grabbed the brakes, that will have sent that around quickly split.
On board with Brett O'Keefe, and just a tiny little bit of a rub as he comes past, and he's probably going to get away with that, thankfully, is Brett, but he won't be too happy about the damage to his car. But Shane Best, his damage is a lot worse in the pits, and he'll be out of the race. The silver lining is he'll start the next race from pole.
Yeah, it's certainly a bit of the old turnaround there, but that is what the heat format does for these guys here. So the question is, if we should hopefully get back to racing action as the car has been cleared with the tow. So we hope that they'll get that going once again. And indeed, safety car instructor to pull away from the field now. So this will be a fairly lengthy hold here for Carl Sampson as the race leader, since of course they'll have to get through the S's, down through the Melbourne hairpin, and then sometime after that probably look to restart. But of course, time the run out of Goddard's as well. Try not to go too early perhaps. We'll see here. While Sampson does it, he'll have control from the moment that safety car is in the pit lane.
Yeah, while he's got control, not necessarily the right move to go straight away. So, like I said, it'll be interesting to see when he goes and how he times this run. We've seen all different sorts of strategies with this restart. Going to be very, very interesting to see when he goes.
You would think surely he times it so he can just put the foot down out of Goddard's here and take a pretty normal run down the start-finish straight. And if he can just have Mulqueen behind in the middle of the apex a little bit more and have to delay the power, that will help. And indeed, there we go. We go green off of the final turn there. No surprises. And one of the drivers who gets a good jump, Mandela Pluck. Not too shocking there that the teammate of your race leader gets a good run there, and perhaps in communication about that all up the inside of Reece Gardner for 4th place at turn 1 here on the restart at lap 3, Jay, and gets the job done quite nicely there on exit. No fight straight away here from Gardner, but might need a lap or two to warm this car up, given they didn't quite get a full lap's worth of racing in. And yeah, these cars will take a little bit of time to warm up as they make their way down through the old hairpin for the second time at race pace here.
Yeah, good jump from Sampson. He timed that very, very well, and just didn't quite catch Mulqueen off guard, but he got enough of a gap to make it worthwhile in that jump. Faulkner went with him, but yeah, Reece Gardner probably a little bit sluggish. Not necessarily in his takeoff, just was at the wrong part of the corner to be able to plant the foot, and Mandela Pluck, knowing when the run was going to come, helped him prepare a little bit more, but very much single file the whole way through the field. Good to see. Melbourne hairpin though, could start to mix a few up, and if you were getting quite aggressive through the chicane, remember you've got to be careful going through that chicane there through the S's, because if you cut it too aggressively, find yourself with a slowdown penalty, but don't cut it enough, you leave yourself susceptible to an overtake.
Case in point, number 51 of Matthew Pluck has currently got a slowdown. He needs to finish serving here. You can see out of the Melbourne hairpin, just trying to get it bled before we get to Goddard's. And Brett O'Keefe says, I'll take that open invitation. You're going nice and slow there. In fact, still having to serve. Finally gets it cleared at the apex of Goddard's, and actually slightly balks at teammate Hayden Kirk there as they make their way out of the final turn. And look at that there. Our top 7, it looks like here. Indeed, yes, our top 7 currently still together as a group for the most part. And then we've got our final 4 drivers a little bit further back in behind. The 22 now of Brett O'Keefe leading that group. And that's a lovely shot here from the old hairpin looking up the Carolina curves. See, they're all fairly evenly spaced here through this opening group of 7, Jay. Looks like there, though, Ewan Baker at the back of the group trying to get a bit of a hurry on and get past. Matthew Brunt will be his first man to get by before he can approach the rear of Reece Gardner's up into McLean's. That's a little wide from Brunt through the turn. Baker takes no need for a further opportunity there. Up the inside of Coppice, and job done onto the back straight.
Nice move. Very, very well set up move from Baker there to get that done. So well done from him. Matthew Pluck's under a lot of pressure from that group behind. The whole 3 of them behind him are right there ready to pounce and potentially take this move. But I don't think you want to go there, Brett. Not yet. That's not the right place to get the move done. And I tell you what, O'Keefe's gone in way too hot. He's going to leave himself susceptible to an overtake here.
Yeah, well, remember, O'Keefe was leading this group down the front stretch after Pluck actually was the one who had to serve a slowdown penalty. And in fact, O'Keefe's going to go from position number 8 all the way back to the rear of the train in 11th in the space of about, well, half a lap, if not that. And, well, talk about drastic turns of fortune here. Go up the inside of Goddard's on Isaac Edwards, who tries to stick it around the outside, but he almost finds the dirt there in the 15 ICT Race on Oz entry there, and just keeps it inside on the asphalt there. That could easily have gone wrong if it caught the grass with the front end or the rear end. Either way, it would have speared the car either out wide or around, but hangs onto it just. But, well, now that the Kiwi sim racing drivers from this group here in Pluck and Kirk are free, it's now a curious question, I guess, of how long before they push on through, because you can see Pluck already breaking away from Kirk behind. He's got, though, about 4 and a bit seconds to get to the guys ahead of him as we check on board here with that 371 of Hayden Kirk, looking back at Brett O'Keefe here.
Yeah, Kirk has had a bit of an up and down race. I mean, look at that, started 9th, currently 9th, but he's been back to the rear of the field. He's worked his way back through. You know, he's got to try and close up that gap to Matthew Pluck. As you said, he's starting to break away a tiny little bit. Cut away from this, though, because interesting at the front, seeing purple sectors on the timing sheet from Damon Mulqueen. So he's starting to close this gap down at the front. At the start of the lap, it was 9/10. Right now, it's about half a second.
Yeah, that's a good start for this one here. Fastest sector 1 by almost a 10th over the race leader, at least. He's been closely matched, though, by Ben Faulkner behind. So potentially here, it might be that Sampson becomes the bottleneck in this next part of the race.
Sampson trying to weave to break the draft.
Yeah, draft might not be all that shouldn't be all that powerful here, due to the fact that the straights aren't long enough to really get a big benefit out of it. As trouble for Reece Gardner at turn 1, all by himself, I think, as well. Unfortunately, loses the rear at Redgate. You can see here a fairly straightforward recovery there for the 94 machine, but he slips back into 7th place behind 2 of the KSR drivers. Let's have a look at it here on the replay. So, yep, just... Oh, he's going to grab the grass at the pit exit there, just trying to open the corner. And again, just a slight spatial mispositioning, positioning the car wrongly. Mistake when it comes to spatial awareness there. Recovers the car, but back in 7th, and now gives Matthew Pluck a prime target as in behind. Brett O'Keefe's gotten back through on Hayden Kirk here.
There's been an incident between these two and Isaac Edwards, so... But try and pick it up. It's coming through down the bottom of the hill here. I think all 3 of these cars, that being O'Keefe, Kirk, and Edwards, have all made an error at the hairpin. The old hairpin, that is.
Well, let's have a look at it here on the replay, thanks to Virtual Racing Tool. So, let's see here.
Well, that's a bit drifty.
Kirk in a bit too hot. Isaac Edwards also in a bit hot. So they both take to the grass, and then that just enables Brett O'Keefe actually to keep it on the track. Fire it up the inside under Starkey's bridge up to McLean's, and job done there for the 22 machine once again. So consistency paying off nicely, but back to live pitches, and in the meantime, Hayden Kirk back on through again on the 22 there. So back and forth they go. Question is, who's going to win the day today? The driver who's keeping it on the road, or the driver who's got the raw pace, but occasionally throwing it off the road? It seems that at this stage it could go either way here, between these two at least.
The battle at the front, the purple sector times for Damon Mulqueen were counteracted by a couple of bad sectors in the second half of the lap, and the gap stays as it was. So Mulqueen last lap by, faster by just over 100th of a second. So no real difference in pace on that previous lap. In saying that, though, Carl Sampson did set his personal fastest lap of the race. So Sampson's finding a little bit. Mulqueen's got faster sector pace. So, it's got to even out at some point, and whether it's in Sampson's favour or Mulqueen's favour, it's going to be interesting to see.
Yes, well, we'll keep our eyes pinned on this and see what can be done here. As up through the S as they come, once again, you can see they're pretty aggressive with the curb usage, but able to keep that, well, at least no slowdowns. They might be picking up some off tracks here and there with the lines through the S's there, but well, as long as you keep a couple in the bank, you've got 20 to play with on a 20-lap race. Keep at least 4 in the bank for a potential potential car contact, and you're pretty golden, I would suspect. And, well, given that on the lap 2, it was a safety car there, that will have given at least one freebie, or one there if you're going to play that kind of bank rule to keep that all in check there. So, race lead stabilized once again, as you said, Jay, at 9/10 of a second currently. And last time around, it was Carl Sampson fastest on the circuit. And second fastest went jointly to Damon Mulqueen and Ewan Baker. Second and fifth for those drivers, respectively. See here, though, fight is on for P3. Ben Faulkner's had some good pace start of the race, but has dropped off all of a sudden here in this sort of second phase of the race, and it's Mandela's Pluck's turn to have a go at the 042 up to McLean's. Oh my word, that's a massive send! And in fact, contact between the two of them at McLean's puts Faulkner in the dirt trying to defend the move. Ewan Baker goes on through. Looks like it's going to be redressed by Pluck there. Yep, it is. He's waiting there as we come up to Coppice. And lets Faulkner through, but it promotes of all drivers after that kind of kerfuffle. Ewan Baker gets his way through to P3 in the dying state, well, in that moment there. And Matthew Brunt follows him through into P4. So it was one heck of a send, and yeah, didn't quite pull that one off. And, well, how about that there? Reece Gardner, Matthew Pluck not too far behind that entire group as well.
It was an almighty send, wasn't it? I tell you what, Faulkner's lucky to not have any steering damage from that, because he got hit very, very hard right in that front right-hand tyre. So I actually thought there may have been a bit of damage sustained from that. Very lucky to get away with it.
Yes, well, we'll see how that goes for them there. Yeah, bang! It's a solid...
Second hit too.
Yeah, it's, the first hit, you probably say, yeah, fair enough. The steering was straight on at the point. But yeah, that second hit, when he's trying to turn the car in for the corner, very lucky to not have that right front ripped off or just damage to the right front is exacerbated as a result of the contact. But, well, keeps on racing. Now has to get back past Matthew Brunt and then go after Ewan Baker to get back to the third place that he had held on to for so long in this race. And, well, actually, looking at this, Mandela Pluck has not really recovered from that contact. He was all over the back of Faulkner and hasn't got there yet after these past couple of laps. So, curious to see if that means potentially Pluck's car a little more damaged than Faulkner's, or whether it's just a case of having to take it easy here for a lap or two and then start all over once again. You can see that at the top of your screen, gap for the lead, Jay, back under 6/10 for a moment. There, or at around 6/10 of a second. So it's going to go back and forth a little bit there between our two leaders of this race. You can see them here into the Melbourne hairpin. And what does Damon Mulqueen have for Carl Sampson? The answer so far is a couple of tenths in the opening sector, but loses a bit of the time in Sector 2 and gets a bit back in Sector 3. So trading back and forth here around the Donington Park circuit in these cars at this stage. And you can see there the runoff of Goddard's this time by in favour of Mulqueen slightly. They'll just creep under 6/10 of a second there, under brakes into Redgate here to start lap 10. And this will get us to the halfway phase of the race. You can see the overall time gain on that lap, just a hair under 3/10 of a second there.
Decent gain for Mulqueen on that previous lap. And one positive that Mulqueen has now that he didn't have 3 or 4 laps ago is a bit of track space behind him. He had Faulkner and Pluck only a second and a half or so behind earlier, so he couldn't be too ambitious with a move, couldn't fight too hard. He just had to sort of take his time, wait for the moment, and work out when the right time to actually make a move was. Now he can do it whenever he likes. He's got 6 seconds behind, plenty of room, plenty of gap. I'll tell you who's looking racy is Benjamin Faulkner. He's wanting those positions back that he just lost.
No surprises there. And maybe a sign here, the Hyundai looking strong in the slipstream, having had lost the toe of the race leaders. Now that he's got cars ahead to narrow in on and get a bit of a straight line assistance. Faulkner looking racy, thinks to the inside for the S's, but too far back. Surely going to have to tuck back in line, but actually keeps it out off the line there, compromising the entry ever so slightly through the left-right chicane there before coming down here to the Melbourne hairpin. Rear brake discs on these cars absolutely lighting up tonight. As well, you do run, depending on your driving style, you may run the brake bias extremely rearward on these cars, but, well, one of the lovely little things that makes iRacing what it is including the fact that the rear brake discs seem to particularly like lighting up relative to the fronts most places, as you can see they come out of Goddard's once again and get the first half of this race down and dusted on the books. 10 to go here for these drivers as they make their way into turn 1 once again. Gap for the race lead, still at 6/10 now, actually under half a second I should say, but back and forth between them they go. And meanwhile, this fight here for P4 continuing to brew likewise. That's a little
mistake.
loose for Matthew Brunt there, down through the old hairpin. Prime chance coming now for Ben Faulkner. Can he find a way up the inside here at McLean's? He's looking for it. In fact, actually cuts back too early on the way up from Starkey's Bridge. Has to swing the car back across and then straighten the entry to McLean's. That is just the deceptive nature of this circuit if you're tucked up behind someone here. But it's a good run out through Coppice Corner. Might be on for a move here at the S's, but Brunt's looking to try and defend that, and he's slowly... Nope, he's going to come back to middle of track, but that's going to be a very narrow intro here. Faulkner's committed though, Jay. Up the inside he goes, under brakes. Job done into the chicane here, but watch out for Mandela Pluck.
Pluck's got
Here
the
he
run.
comes.
Beautiful move. He saw what was coming, slowed himself up into the corner at the S's. Took advantage with some momentum through the corner with those two drivers checked up. Move done. Brunt goes from 4th to 6th. Pluck from 6th to 5th. Faulkner back into 4th position.
One more man on the cards for Ben Faulkner to get back the P3. As you see here, Brunt's trying to keep the pressure on Pluck here out of Goddard's, but slightly different lines there. Gives a bit of drive to the 04 Hyundai ahead of us here as we stay on board with the 134 Audi down into turn 1. And throwing in a fair bit deeper there is Brunt, and looks to be a slightly better run this particular time for him out of Redgate and down here through the Craner curves. Close, but not close enough to have already made a move up the inside. We'll have to just try and play sit up here through the old hairpin. As back to the race lead we go. Gap down to 0.3 of a second between these two drivers.
Gap has closed 10th or so every lap since we last looked at it. So Mulqueen definitely has the pace to get the move done. But is he able to close up enough to get Samson to open the door a little bit? Or is he just going to have to force it and throw it up the inside later in the race? If he's going to have to do the throw it up the inside move, he's probably best to wait as late as possible. Because if he throws it up the inside, doesn't get it right, it doesn't cost him too much if it's at the end of the race. But if he does it too early, leaves him susceptible to Samson to being able to come back through.
Yeah, that will be the key to watch out there. They've still got 6 seconds from the race leader back to Ewan Baker in 3rd place. So as you did note there, certainly an advantage to Mulqueen in terms of having opportunities to fight without the pressure. But this time out of the Melbourne hairpin and Goddard's J, that was definitely advantage Carl Sampson. Gap goes up from 0.3 back to almost 6. And overall lap time on that last lap was faster in the hands of Sampson by almost 1/10. So really back and forth between these two. And the back and forth continues because Mulqueen gets it down back under half a second on the way out of Redgate and down to the old hairpin on this particular lap. As we check back in with Ben Faulkner and Mandela Pluck, they've both gotten through. Well, as I said, we saw them both get through on Matthew Brunt. Apologies there. Reece Gardner's starting to
Closing
get
back in, isn't he?
the rear of the train, and that's good to see there. In fact, actually, interestingly, I just saw Matthew Pluck was the next car that was going to be showing up on that group, but Reece has made his way through a little bit more quietly, although that might be why, pushing the track limits a little bit there at McLean's in particular. Push as hard as he can to get back here. Certainly might just give him a chance of top 5 at minimum, because that's only a couple, 2 spots up the road, but maybe even P4 here if he can hit the pressure on and make some decisive moves pretty quickly here.
Interesting how much pace that Gardner's closed into that group. I mean, there was the pass between Brunt, Pluck, Faulkner a couple of laps ago, but he was 2.5 seconds back from Pluck when he was behind him, and now he's right on the tail of Brunt. Last lap by was a second faster, give or take, from Matthew Brunt. So he's definitely found a little bit more pace over the last couple of laps. Last lap by was his personal fastest lap of the race. The only downfall for Reese Gardner, he's just received a slowdown penalty, so he's got to slow down a little bit of time. He's also starting to slowly rack up the incident count too. It's not in a dangerous situation yet, but he is being a little bit more aggressive with the incidents than anyone else out there on track.
That'll be important to note there. Gets the slowdown serve quite expertly there, under brakes into Redgate. So he's all clear to power on down the hill through the Craner curves and close that gap back up to your 4th, 5th and 6th place drivers. Although at this stage it looks like Ben Faulkner checking out at the front of the group. It's just going to be probably a chance to go race for P5 here, it seemed, for the driver of the number 94 there for Fusion Sim Racing, as he proceeds here on lap number 14. Well, it means our closest battle on track once again is now between our 2 race leaders, staying at half a second here, Jay. Fastest Sector 1 in the race to Damon Mulqueen here on this lap, but hasn't shown a purple in Sector 2. He was faster from Sampson, though, by almost a full 10th. Sector 3 here, as they come up the hill, picks up another almost 2 tenths there on Sampson. So looking quite racy this time. The question is, can he get the drive here off of the Melbourne hairpin? And the run
He looks
out
a little
of
sluggish
Goddard.
through the middle of the corner there, doesn't he? Through Melbourne.
He does, yeah.
He closes it into about 2.5 tenths at the point of turn in, but you just can't get the momentum through the corner. He gains it all through the rest of the track, and then loses all of that ground through Melbourne alone. Every other corner he's got about the same or better pace, but the Melbourne hairpin gets him every single lap.
Pardon me, apologies. But yes, certainly important to note there. That looks to be good mid to high speed balance in that number 42 machine, but better drive out of the low stuff for the 27. And well, that's going to be important given the end of the lap is all about your low speed drive. How about that though, for flirting with the limits there. Mulqueen driving it out past the curb at the exit of the old hairpin. Sampson similar, but nowhere near as much in that particular instance. And I think, yeah, Mulqueen a little wide there as well. McLean's, that's not mistakes. That is just pushing as hard as he can and getting away with as much as he can as well, for good measure.
Battle that we were watching before between Faulkner, Pluck, Brunt and Gardner is now only a battle of 3. Faulkner's broken away from the other 3 in the group, so it's no longer a 4-car fight, it's only 3. But this battle here is still the closest. Good run through the S's for Mulqueen, but he, again, just can't do anything with it. He just can't seem to get the line the same as what Sampson does to maintain the momentum. In saying that, this lap looks a little bit better than what he'd been doing.
Yes, it does. So we'll see if it's the potential to set up. You can see here different lines into Goddard's. Mulqueen trying to really get a more later apex and straighter run out, but the camber of that corner not going to be helping in that quest. Has to be careful not to overrun into the turn there, as down into Redgate once again they come, and yeah, gap still holding just under half a second, but you can see time ticking down by the 100th or so here through the Craner curves for Mulqueen. Although you can see that ticked up for a second there, go under 4 tenths this time down at the old hairpin. This time it's Sampson's turn to go a little bit deeper through the corner there. So pressure starting to really be applied between these two. And, well, going to have themselves 6.5 laps to figure this one out. Well, the contact we saw between Ben Faulkner and Mandela Pluck, you can see 042 and 04 at the top of the timing display there. The redress noted by race control, but a license points penalty for the 04 of Mandela Pluck for the contact. And the forcing of Faulkner's car off the road there at McLean's a couple of laps ago now. But they have continued racing, of course. And it still is, yeah, Pluck leading, Brunt leading, Gardner for that one there. There's 3 cars looking pretty close together on the track there. But this time again, Mulqueen a little deeper and a little wider on the exit, actually picking up a bit of time on the way out.
That's right,
Sampson. He's close. It's the question of, because you get the run out of Goddard as well. You see here really pushing the limp car there on the exit and losing it just again a bit of time through the mid corner, but getting it back down the straights here with good drive and maybe just the hint of slipstream helping him out. Closer than he's been for a while through Redgate this time. Now he's going to start the run down the hill at 3.5 tenths. And let's see, can he get this under 3/10 by the time we reach the old hairpin down here? As it drops, not quite. It's going to be just over 3/10 here, and then backs off a little bit on the way in, but actually that was quite costly there, a little bit too conservative versus Samson, lost a 10th. And so the gap continues to hold steady at around half a second here. As I'm just having a look quickly on my timing and our fight for P5, and they're all pretty evenly spaced out at the moment, Jay, but only about 1.3 seconds or so separating these three guys.
There's not much between all three. Reese Gardner last lap wasn't the quickest out of all of them, but previous laps he's been the fastest, so a little bit of consistency between all three of them wouldn't go astray. They're all very, very closely matched in regards to pace. This is the closest Mulqueen's been. He's within 3/10 of a second, but not quite enough to be able to get the move done. I have to try something a little bit different, I think, to get this done, because we know that he wants to get the move done. Being able to do it is another story.
Trying to get the late braking moves on. His car slow there amongst this group of cars. In fact, yeah, Mandela Pluck, massive slowdown through the S's, I think, and has opted to serve it aggressively down to the Melbourne hairpin there. Have a look at it here on the replay thanks to Virtual Race. Yeah, that looked like a bit too much, or
Much grass there, yeah.
a lot too much to the first part of the chicane. And rather than serving it progressively there, opts to slam on the anchors to clear that one ASAP since the Melbourne hairpin was coming up. Back to position number 7 he goes and elevates Matthew Brunt to P5 and Reese Gardner to P6 as we return to live pitches. And yeah, gap still at around 4/10 between Sampson and Mulqueen, but this time around Mulqueen continuing to gain time up the hill to McLean's. 2.5 laps to go between these two for race number 1 here tonight, Jay. And it's starting to really look like it will go either way here tonight. But, well, we'll have to keep you posted because it is certainly not over yet.
He's probably got to get it done next lap and then use that 1 lap to defend. And then if he doesn't get it done with 2 to go, then he's still got 1 more chance. So I would say next lap is the lap that he gets a bit ambitious. This is by far the closest he's been. He's only 2/10 back. Don't know if that's aggressive enough. He's got through that okay. No slowdown penalty. This could be it. Oh, he's not close enough again. Better run from Samson that time.
Yeah, pushing the limits, but staying away from the slowdowns here are these two drivers at the front of the field. As I've just seen, Ewan Baker's picked up a slowdown out of P3, but he should be fairly safe. It will give Ben Faulkner half a chance to make something of it with 2 laps to go, but gap between them is still around 2 seconds. P3 as we check out the other close pairing on circuit, Matthew Brunt and Reese Gardner. Less than half a second between these two as into Goddard's we go, and lock up from the Audi of Brunt there, but slightly straighter exit as they head down the front stretch allows him to get on the power a little early there. And the Audi also well renowned for being slightly better with the initial acceleration thanks to DSG gearbox and shorter ratios in the low end versus the more traditional racing gearbox that the Hyundai runs. But looking pretty racy there, these two. 2 laps for those guys to sort out who comes out on top. Quarter of a second now between our race leaders. Lap and a half to go here on the board. He's inching ever closer, is Damon and Mulqueen, Jay. And surely, as you said, maybe listening in, prefer to your thoughts from last time around. This is the lap to strike, set something up, figure out what he's going to do here, or Carl Sampson's going to do here defensively if it doesn't work out. And then you know for the final lap, if you can't make it stick here, what you're going to have to do to try and make something happen.
I think he's tried for 18 laps to force an error. He hasn't been able to do that. So now he's got to try and work a different way to get this through. And he's too far back now, so he's really got to get ambitious. And we know that Damon is a very, very smart, very, very controlled, very composed driver. But that doesn't mean he's just wanting to settle for second. He'll be wanting to try and make the move where he can. Trying things a little bit different now. You see a completely different line to what he's done all race there through the final corner, but it has absolutely ruined his run. He's going to have to work hard to get this done now. Reese Gardner's around the outside.
Yep. Side by side, down under brakes into the Melbourne hairpin, still on the way up to Goddard's. They crisscross on the exit of the hairpin, but Brunt hangs on for P5 for now, but 1 lap to go. Mandela plucks 7/10 of a second back, and Gardner wants the inside for turn 1. This time by he's been denied, so round the outside he will try but can he do the crisscross here at Redgate? He tries, but I think he might have had to pull it up a bit too much, and Brunt able to shut the door before they make their way down to the crane of curbs. Oh boy, these two are starting to really go at it. It was a fantastic run through the S's, I have to say, for Gardner. Got Brunt all kinds of crisscrossed and therefore able to get alongside on the brakes, but great commitment from Brunt, able to hang it around the outside of the Melbourne hairpin and able to force Gardner to the outside for Goddard's. But they keep at it, these two, and well, it just invites Mandela Pluck back into the equation here for P5. Up into McLean's front rear contact between the two of them here, and out in the dirt for the both of them as well. They're leaving absolutely nothing on the table in this fight for the final position in the top 5. Look at the run there from Gardner, really trying to put the power down early, but Brunt's got him covered this time into the S's. But can Gardner force a narrow entry, break a fraction earlier? No, Brunt will be able to come across as he would like for the run here. This time through the S's, slightly better run through the first half, but evens out in the second as they come down to the Melbourne hairpin. We check in with our race leaders. They are going to finish as they were. Damon Mulqueen not able to find the magic that he needs to get across the line. So Carl Sampson from the pole position tonight will hang on for the race win, but only just ahead of Damon Mulqueen. It'll be Baker and Faulkner for third and fourth as the next couple of cars for the fight for P5 come up to the corner here. Oh, dicing deep under brakes, but they're going to finish the way they started the lap. Brunt from Gardner from Pluck to wrap up race number 1. It got close, but unfortunately not quite enough there for the 94, and likewise the 04 in all of that one there. But sets the stage for an exciting race 2 later on this evening, with the way that, well, fight for the lead between these two here on screen with you now. The fight there for P5 at the end. We're going to have our hands full keeping our eyes on everything that happens this evening, I think.
That was a great race. Well done from both of those guys for keeping it so respectful as well.
And, well, let's walk you through the results now as we wait for our final driver to come across the start-finish line. Carl Sampson, your race winner, half a second clear in the end from Damon Mulqueen there. Just not quite able to get something done there in behind the wheel of the number 42, but just you watch for him to come strong in the feature, I'm sure. Ewan Baker there ended up being a somewhat quiet P3, able to jump up the field quite nicely there after a bit of chaos earlier on between Faulkner and Mandela Pluck in particular. And Faulkner will have to settle for P4 there. Then you've got Matthew Brunt, Reese Gardner, and Mandela Pluck there in that 5, 6, 7 train. Matthew Pluck in behind Mandela there for 8th place, a little long ways back. Hayden Kirk brings it home in P9. Unfortunately for him, a bit back and forward for him there tonight. And Brett O'Keefe, after the contact with Shane Best on lap 1, we'll see him down in 40th. And then Isaac Edwards, the last driver to finish the race, about 20 seconds back from O'Keefe there. A quiet race for the driver of the number 15. And yeah, Shane Best, unfortunately, not completing that race due to the damage sustained from finding the fence there on lap number 1. We'll take a short break here at SimSpeed TV before we return for the Jetta Cup racing here at Donington as part of event number 9 for the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series for 2022. Stay with us. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
When I'm driving an F1 car, steering wheel feedback is one of the most important things. It helps me decide when to brake and how hard. It's how I feel the surface of the road. Every bump in the terrain, every wheel slip. If my tyres are starting to lose grip, I can sense that immediately. When I'm driving in a sim, I need that same tactility, that level of detail I have in a real car.
Racing games have come a long way in the last 20 years. Nothing's really changed in how we approach force feedback in all that time. Cutting-edge sims are now so realistic, drivers across all disciplines are using them for training. Our main goal when designing TrueForce was to improve the number of sensations that you actually feel, to put you better in contact with the car that you're driving so that you can improve your performance and that enjoyment of driving on a track. The physical feedback needs to be more immediate or accurate, or a player loses immersion or control.
Game developers are still having to recreate their force feedback from a set library of effects instead of deriving it from real-time modeling.
TrueForce is special because it levels the playing field for PC and console gamers. You're now getting the extra level of precision and detail that you need, regardless of which platform is your choice. This is not just iteration, it's total evolution. TrueForce force feedback works differently. It hooks directly into the physics engine of the game. Games already calculate the forces on the tires and the steering wheel. The TrueForce algorithm is able to process this data at up to 4,000 times a second. It will even use the game's audio engine and pass it directly on to the driver.
We spend a lot of time as audio designers trying to make each car sound unique and as realistic as we possibly can. Being able to integrate the audio into the force feedback is something that we've wanted to do for a long time, and TrueForce enables us to do that. And the ability to send the audio to the wheel, to have it respond and vibrate with the loss of traction, really increases my ability to give that immersion to the player.
You can sense the changing surface of the road. You'll be able to feel if the back end of the car is losing grip.
The first time we had it running in the build, I could feel the wheel humming and vibrating as we revved the engine. Our immediate reaction was it really adds another level of immersion.
The first thing you're going to feel with a TrueForce wheel is the engine note. The minute the engine starts in the game, you will know exactly which car you are driving. TrueForce is the beginning of something new. This is now the foundation for all wheels that we'll produce in the future. This extra level of information gives everyone all the information they need to learn how to control their car better. TrueForce benefits any racing fan looking for a more realistic driving experience.
Because winning is all about feeling.
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
SIX very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Welcome back to coverage of round number 9 of the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series for 2022 here at the virtual Donington Park race circuit in the United Kingdom on SimSpeed TV. My name is Danny Gaiman, Jay Kennedy alongside me in the commentary box and on production for this evening. And well, after a fantastic race there in the 2-litre Tourers, with the fights there for the race win along with the fight for P5J, we turn our attention to the Jetta Cup as our intermission for our boys in the 2-litre Tourers. And well, for at least one of them tonight, actually it's not really intermission, it's actually a hop on into something else completely different, because he's a busy man race guy deciding to do all the front wheel drive racing here as part of the supports calendar this year. But before we get to the action, let's have a quick read through the championship standings here in the Jetta Cup. And no surprises really to see that it is Ray Oliver still on top of the standings after 7 rounds out of the 8 that these cars have been racing at. But well, Linton Wills, one of the drivers that's certainly been a bit of a shock to see him at the top of the points score, but that's how the point system does work here. It certainly rewards attendance, even if the results aren't that great compared to the drivers ahead of you this evening. Kyle Ridley there in P3, not too far back though, and thanks to generally strong results with a couple of missteps along the way, Jay, expect to see him challenge for that second place spot pretty quickly. About 100 points back there to Daniel Stevens in P4, and then another almost 200 back to Reece Gardner to round out the top 5 in the standings here for the Jetta Cup.
Yeah, we talked last weekend at Sonoma that we were a little surprised in some aspects that Linton Wills was so high up in the championship, but in other aspects, not surprised at all because he has been Mr. Consistent. Sure, he hasn't had the best race results, but the one thing he's got over almost everyone else in the field is he's finished nearly every race. So, getting points for finishing races much better than getting a race win and then a DNF, which was what we saw from Kyle Ridley last round. A DNF or not classified in one of the 2 races last round really has hurt him in the championship fight. Ray Oliver now with half a round lead, but that can change very, very quickly, as this is only also the second last round for the Jetta Cup. The final round for the Jettas will be on the Saturday night of the Bathurst 1000 coverage for V8SCOPS. So that'll be their final hit out, and a little bit longer races when we get to them. Of course, tonight, usual format for the Jettas, 10-minute first race, 15-minute second race, with a full reverse grid in that race too, which has been hotly contested, that second race with the reverse grid. And we've seen a lot of drama with how fragile the front steering arms are in these cars.
Oh, you can say that again. Ever since we saw it primarily, well, first I think we saw it in particular at Interlagos, yep. And, well, it's been a feature, it seems, ever since when it comes to a bit of contact. And, well, I think, yes, part of the reason, coming back to the championship real quick, that I guess you shouldn't be too surprised as well. Yeah, the point scheme is designed is basically the V8SCOPS point scheme, which of course sees 40 drivers to a grid when top split is at capacity, and second split as well as at capacity around here. And so with 8 cars currently out there setting times, the points differential between first and 7th and well even 8th here isn't that big. You just have to make sure you come across the line and have done enough laps to earn yourself the points, as you said there, Joe.
100%. You just need to make sure you finish as high up as you can. But finishing the races is more important than winning the races. So I think a few drivers have worked that out towards the second half of the season. The drivers are currently in qualifying for their first race. As we said, the first race will set the grid. This qualifying session will set the grid for the first race, but full reverse grid for race 2 as Kyle Ridley just steals away pole position from Ray Oliver on his run there. So a little bit of a change of position. You can see there too, Reece Gardner trying to get some laps in. Daniel Stevens just crosses the line. He will improve. Jump up. No, won't improve his position.
Close, but not quite there for the number 1 machine. He's got just enough time to get around and do another lap. Linton Wills, likewise, ahead of him will do. And Gavin Cox has snuck in, and he will be the last man to start a flying lap here in time in the 555, and well, chance to improve on a 147.4, but so no surprises, to be honest. Jay, Kyle Ridley, Ray Oliver, untouched, relatively speaking, at the moment for those front 2 spots. The fact they've got a margin of nearly 7/10 back to P3 really just shows that their pace is unmatched here in this series this year. But I mean, it's quite the impressive margin. You see Linton Wills there currently in 7th, who's, as we watch him here on circuit, being able to get that second place in the championship and might be able to hang on, but with the margin between him and Ridley pretty small going into tonight, he will most likely have to concede that second place, but still be on track for top 3 in the championship unless it goes horribly wrong for him this evening or in that final round once we make our way to Bathurst come end of the SCOPS endurance season.
And Stevens will be looking to get a little bit of improvement here to jump his teammate Gavin Cox. He needs about half a second, but in saying that, this lap He's looking pretty decent on the timing sheets. Ray Oliver is done. He did not improve on that final lap there. He pulled over very early, as is Kyle Ridley, so they won't improve. Gavin Cox may improve. Dan Stevens is lighting up the timesheet a fair bit with some green sectors, so we could see decent improvement here. Is it enough? Not quite. He's nearly got his teammate, only missed out by just under a tenth.
And he barely missed out on improving on his own. Actually, he did improve, apologies.
Yeah, he did.
On his PB. Actually, yes, I was a bit slow to actually see what his time was, but yeah, closes the gap down, but a 1:47.487 actually matches Gavin. Well, Gavin Cox matches him almost to the thousandth. He's a fraction ahead there, but the original 47.402 in the bank for the 555 machine will do him well there. So 8 cars to the grid for the Jetta Cup this round, and let's walk you through them here. And well, it'll be a fairly quick and easy grid walkthrough for tonight, of course. So your front two, no surprises there for Kyle Ridley and Ray Oliver. Not much in between them there. In fact, yeah, look at those numbers there. 0.036 the margin in qualifying at the end of the 10 minutes for those guys there. And then next one on the grid will be Gavin Cox leading his teammate Daniel Stevens. And nothing in it between those two guys either here tonight. So down on the Sim Esports all front row, Middle Finger Racing take the second row. And then we finally get some variety with Reese Gardner sharing row number 3 with Aaron Gilbert tonight there. 3/10 between those drivers there on that third row. And then our fourth and final row tonight, Linton Wills. Starting our 7th has Ben Christensen alongside him there for 8th place. Henry King in the 00 Porsche Cayman GT4 safety car, which we haven't seen all too much of in the Jetta Cup this year, Jay, which certainly allows these guys to keep on racing for the full race, which is great to see. And, well, we hope to keep that trend somewhat going here tonight.
The drivers are on the grid, but of course you just have to wait for the 2-minute grid hold. So a couple of seconds for them to wait to rev up their cars that you won't hear. Even if we go on board, you still won't even hear them rev up on the starting grid. It's amazing the small amount of noise that these cars make, but the racing we've seen, even with small grids, has been absolutely incredible, highly entertaining, and if you have not seen Jetta's race before, is absolutely fantastic. Strap yourself in. This is going to be very, very fun.
Yeah, they're our quietest, they're our slowest class of car here on the V8SCOPS calendar in general, but been some of the best racing here in the supports for this year. They get the green flag from Barney on the control tower, and we're away here for the first of our 2 races in the Jetta Cup. It's going to be Ridley leading Oliver away from the front row, and Gavin Cox will file in ahead of Dan Stevens, but Reese Gardner maybe he will tuck in to stay P5 through turn 1, as Ridley, though, deep through the corner, will allow everyone to bunch up down the hill behind him into the corner curves for the first time here, and single file for these guys on this opening lap. Of course, time certain for these cars, unlike the lap count we got in the 2-litre Tourers earlier on. And old hairpin for the first time, and Ridley is wide. That allows his teammate Ray Oliver to go around the outside, but Gavin Cox is almost thinking about 3 wide up the hill towards McLean's there. He doesn't get it done. Dan Stevens, his teammate, up the inside through the kink before McLean's itself. They will change places there, and Ray Oliver sweeps around the outside to take the race lead. There is off in the dirt for Stevens, trying to give his teammates space there. Reese Gardner, though, actually backs it up and doesn't get a run out of McLean's to get the job done. And Christensen up around the outside of Aaron Gilbert there for P6, leaving Linton Wills right behind, but they all still bunch up there. 2.4 seconds covering your field here with the first half of the lap complete.
A little bit of argy-bargy, which we've come to expect in this series, but for the most part, relatively clean. Ben Christensen trying to make some moves, but not quite able to.
Oh, Christensen and Gilbert both going to cop slowdown penalties.
Yeah, too aggressive. For
pushing too hard through the S's here before the Melbourne hairpin as they come down to this braking zone for the first time. And Christensen still got the slow to serve. Hasn't got it cleared yet, whereas Gilbert's pulled aside and gotten that one out of the way nice and early here tonight. Actually fell in behind Linton Wills as a result. Christensen still got the black flag to slow down, needing to be served, and that will separate the field here into our top 5. Now breaking away from the 3 behind, and in fact, there you go, Linton Wills going to get through as Christensen's actually fallen all the way to the back of the train behind everyone there with trying to clear that slowdown, not getting it done in the most optimal way there on lap 1. So, well, it looks like we'll get ourselves maybe 5 laps here. We might.
I think it'll be 6.
We might get 6. Well, I guess we'll have to see, won't we? Because I look up my clock and we're already at 7.5 minutes in the race, remaining as wide this time for Gavin Cox down through the old hairpin. Dan Stevens up the inside of the number 1 machine. That wasn't too hard for him before McLean's this time by. And trade places without much fuss.
Look at that high rev count.
The impressively high rev count. Oh, I can't actually see what you have.
200.
Oh boy, well. Never say that a diesel engine can't rev itself off. Actually, 45. There we go. That's a new high score for the night there from Gavin Cox as we ride on board with the 555 machine out of Coppice and down the back straight here at Donington for the second lap in this race. Anyone going to flirt with trouble through the S's? No, all nice and tidy there.
Well, Stevens was close, but he did a good job there.
Now, let's see here. Look at that there. Ridley and Oliver still nice and close together. The question is, can Dan Stevens find anything to close up and pressure the 2 ahead as they all come out of the Melbourne hairpin? Your top 5 in nice and steady line sync. Linton Wills is still up into P6 here as we jump aboard with your second place driver, Kyle Ridley, through Goddard's they go. And different lines from your front 2 again. Oliver opting for a tighter entry in earlier apex, but washing out wide a fraction at the exit of the turn. Ridley opting for the narrower entry and the straighter exit. And this time through Redgate, all fairly steady. So, yeah, my overlay, in fact, it does say 4 laps remaining for these guys. So, indeed, the ever-wise and smart Jay Kennedy, knowing roughly what lap time we're going to be having here tonight. And
look, it was still a guesstimation, but it was a calculated one.
Okay, well, it's calculated, so there you go. You've done all you need to do then. Whereas I decided to look at the timer after lap 1 and go, maybe 5? I really should have won the numbers.
Interesting, the gap that Ridley started to pull on Dan Stevens. I thought that Stevens, after getting past Cox, may have been able to stick with Ridley, but he's just able to brake a little bit. And saying that last lap by, Dan Stevens was the fastest car on track. He did set the fastest lap of the race, but he's already thrown all of that time away because Gavin Cox has already gained all that time back. So Gavin Cox rather quick on this lap. Saying that though, Ray Oliver just set purple middle sector.
Well, yeah, it's all back and forth here between these guys. It seems as they come down to the S's for the 3rd time here. And yeah, all still nice and tidy from your top 5 as they make their way through the corner there. I'm just seeing in the background our second pack of Linton Wills, Aaron Gilbert and Ben Christensen was looking a little dicey there for a second, perhaps into the S's. Gilbert in particular looking like he's trying to close on up and get past Wills here at some point soon as they come out of the Melbourne hairpin that time though. All looking fairly steady there between these 3 for the moment, but it's going to be down to a question of who's got the best line, because I really don't think it's Linton Wills based on the way I just saw him miss the apex at the final turn. Somehow got it putting the power down and not hurting him too much on the way to turn 1 this time. In fact, actually pulling a slight advantage on Aaron Gilbert behind despite the slightly suboptimal line through that hairpin turn. Looks a bit better there though through Redgate on that particular occasion. And you see that fastest lap of the race, and by nearly 0.4 of a second. Ray Oliver in the race leaders. This time Dan Stevens opts to get himself employed as the resident lawnmower for Donington Park tonight. Well, there'll be plenty of that though here this evening, given that all front-wheel drive affair means that, well, we've seen plenty of it already, Jay, but yeah, lawn mowing and grass cutting services are in plentiful supply here with the amount of understeer induced by power down present with these front-wheel drive cars.
Do they actually have power down at anything? Because I didn't think they
mate,
had power at all.
Yeah, maybe not these ones.
I think it's just understeer because it's a front-wheel drive. It's not due to power.
Yeah, okay, fine. I suppose that's good. An appropriate description of the situation here for these cars. As,
Ben Christensen's got another slowdown penalty. I don't know where he would have got that from, but going to have to give up time again.
Yeah, I'm going to have a quick look and see what that could have been for. It can't have been turn 1 because it would have been a black flag by now. So it's he was a little wide at the old hairpin, but not enough to do anything crazy there. Let's see here, up at McLean's. He clips the inside of the apex curb at McLean's. No, big cut at Coppice. That's where he got it. He picked it up. Trying to get up the inside
It's
of
easy
Aaron.
to cut that corner there because you can find yourself a little bit blindsided with the uphill approach there. So unfortunate there for Christensen, but he's still not too far back. I mean, he's only within 1.5 seconds of the next car ahead of Gilbert, so he could close that time back up. But at the front, the battle is fluctuating quite a lot between our first and second teammates in the mindset cars of Oliver and Ridley. Gavin Cox is coming back here on Dan Stevens. Stevens hasn't had this as easy as he would have liked.
Well, these cars, if they do one thing well, it's they produce close racing. Even when there's, especially between, I guess close racing can happen in any car, but these cars seem to do it better than you might expect. I guess it depends on your attitude to the car, I guess. But low power, low grip, it's all about extracting the fundamentals from the vehicles. So, interesting to see the gap between second and third there, Jay, still steady at around 1.2 seconds. But unfortunately, Stevens has just not been able to make any inroads on these two boys ahead as they come through the S's for the penultimate time in this race.
From Oliver.
It was aggressive, but it was well lined up. Unless he, if he picked up a slowdown,
It was legal anyway.
Okay, well there you go. You can confirm that it was a valid run through the turn. I suppose for these guys here, they're going to get 6 laps on the board. They can actually, if they really wanted to get a bit interesting, just completely abuse the incident limit tonight, given that they're not going to get that many laps on the board, that they could almost get away with 1 or 2 off tracks every single lap here as they come out of Goddard's for the penultimate time here. They'll take the white flag from Barney up on the stand, and 2v2 plus 1 here as they get the 6th lap and final lap of this opening race for the Jetta Cup underway. Do we see any changes in the finishing order from where we stand here? Reece Garner's been having a somewhat quiet race tonight here in the Jetta Cup, currently sitting there in P5. Got 8 tenths to overcome if he wants to get onto the back of Gavin Cox and pressure for a better finish in race 1 here.
Well, mistake from Stevens. He's run a little bit wide through the exit of the through the old hairpin. But Gavin Cox not quite able to close up the gap. But closing up the gap is Kyle Ridley on Ray Oliver, and Ray Oliver's made a mistake. Will Ridley be close enough to make a move? I don't think he is yet, but we could see a little bit of aggressive overtake here because Ridley is in the championship fight as a change of position behind. Gavin Cox through on Dan Stevens. But Ridley wants to get through and get as many points as he can to try and take the championship back away from Ray Oliver.
He would like that. And down the hill we go into the S's here for the final time. The reason that Cox is through on Stevens was actually a second mistake following up from the run wide at the old hairpin. Went wide at McLean's as well. So that more or less sealed Stevens' fate as Oliver locks the brakes there into the Melbourne hairpin. So your top two are going to be side by side almost into Goddard's. No, really not able to drive out strong enough to get alongside. It's going to have to be some Hail Mary around the outside of an off-camber turn under brakes. He tries, that's for sure, here in the 27 machine. In fact, he'll pull alongside almost there, does he? No, he will have to tuck in for P2 there, and they come across the line astern. Gavin Cox up into P3 ahead of Gardner and Stevens, and then Gardner. And your final three drivers are going to finish as they were, but actually...
Christensen just got through.
Yeah, Christensen through on Aaron Gilbert there for 7th place at the end of the race there. Well, that was how race one was won and done by the 99 of Ray Oliver there. 3/10 of a second clear there at the end over his teammate Kyle Ridley in the number 27 machine. 1.7 seconds back to Gavin Cox after he was able to capitalise on the mistakes from Dan Stevens there. He'll have to settle for P4. Reece Gardner not able to quite pressure, but will settle into a happy P5. Head of Linton Wills leading that next group of cars across the line for P6, with Ben Christensen sneaking through ahead of Aaron Gilbert for 7th and 8th, respectively, at the end of that one there. And, well, that's done. So we flip the script on the grid, which means we'll see Gilbert and Christensen take to the quote-unquote front row of this circuit, as, of course, the race control safety car will actually technically be the one on the front of the grid here in this race, but that slot on the grid will of course be unoccupied. Of course, 15-minute race here for this second one, so have a little bit more opportunities to see play out tonight. And I'm counting 9 laps out of that, based on the average pace we saw in that race there. If we even take away a bit of lap time there, still looking at a 9-lap race here for your Jetta Cup in the final race of the evening and the final race of this sprint format for these cars. So the pole position slot, as we said there, will be left vacant, as it's technically filled by the 00 Porsche Cayman GT4 safety car of Henry King. So the 03 of Aaron Gilbert, starting on the outside for the run to turn 1, will be sharing the front row with Ben Christensen on his inside there. There'll be Lindsay Wills out of P3 with Reece Gardner in P4. Daniel Stevens out of P5. We'll have Gavin Cox alongside him in P6. And then Kyle Ridley and Ray Oliver to round out the grid here for our feature. 8 cars to start this one again. And now, with the pole slot being effectively taken on the outside of the run to T1, Jay, what do we think? We saw the inside pretty strong in the 2-litre Tourers, and fairly strong here in the Jetta Cup as well. But, well, who can make the most of it here? As I think they're revving, and indeed they are. The green flag flies.
Oh, no,
Wade Christensen stalls out. Oh, no. And was that Dan Stevens has found the rear of him?
Cox.
Gavin Cox. And it blows the motor straight away on the 555 machine. And Ray Oliver's also picked up damage as well. For Aaron Gilbert slid it through turn 1 at the same time. He's having some kind of dramas on the opening lap here. Dan Stevens and Linton Will's going to go to the lead. Contact Cobra, the Reece Gardner spun down the hill. Through the cop. Oh my goodness, a crane of curves. Gardner back on track in behind Gilbert. Stevens to the race lead. And wowee.
What a bizarre start of this race.
Did they save all the fireworks for this race, apparently? Decided that we didn't get any in race 1, so we needed to just set it all off at turn 1, at the grid, then at turn 1, down the crane of curves. Now, you can see here that...
got damage.
Oh, yeah, he is.
No mechanical black
people.
flag. Ridley has a mechanical black flag, and as does Gavin Cox, no surprise with a blown engine. And Ben Christensen, despite...
has a slowdown penalty once again.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise with that. Despite causing the kerfuffle at the start, has got away with it.
Well, I guess if there's one place to get hit in the Jetta car, it seems to be being hit in the rear is probably the preferable location. So I think we've got a moment to take a look at the race start there once again. So can we get a chance to sort of figure out what's happened there with Christensen's car? Has he stalled out? Bonk. Sounds like it's going there once it's in the grass.
I think he's forgot to are on. He's not going.
Oh! Almost sent sky high butt first. And yeah, well. And then as I said, into turn 1, Gilbert just fires into turn 1, and the car says, yeah, that's not going to do, Chief. He's out in the dirt. He clips Linton Wills first up. Then that bounces across and gets Kyle Ridley and Reece Gardner, who both... well, actually, Ridley, no, does not escape from that. He has a mechanical black flag. Gardner, the very lucky one, on board here with the 27 of Kyle Ridley. And this, again, is all it took for a mechanical black flag there. Front left and rear left, and then rubbing along the right side. Apparently enough to take that car out of contention here for this race. And, well, into the pit lane he comes to clear out the meatball, and Gavin Cox still got the smoking gun of an engine. Don't think we'll be seeing that one out on track anytime soon. As you go back to live pictures, and your race leader, well, it's Dan Stevens, but Ray Oliver is hungry, and despite that crumpled front end, still charging in an attempt to go get another race win to make it a clean sweep here tonight at Donington.
A lot of work to do. 2-second advantage in favour of Dan Stevens. Not going to be easy to close that up. Considering the pace was pretty even between them in that race 1. Just the, I guess the mistakes that were probably bringing everything closer together. But I'll tell you what, 3 wide doesn't look pretty. Aaron Gilbert says, no, thank you. I'm out of there.
And
Also
then
got
he's
a black flag.
Yep, given black flag for the contact with the 842 and the 27, affecting the 94 as well. So unfortunately for Gilbert, there goes from a tale of potential rags to riches and, well, straight back to rags in the course of two laps here.
Devastated because he got such a good start too. He threw it away after a beautiful launch off the line, and then he's going to have to come down the lane. He's going to drop all the way back behind Ben Christensen. But that start he got, he pulled about 2.5 seconds just from a beautiful launch.
A tale of what could have been, indeed. But, well, it's over now, and we'll have to get back on with it. And you know how you said Ray Oliver might have a bit of a mission ahead of him to close down the gap to the race lead? Since we were talking about that going into the S's,
He's got a second.
He's halved it, and we're not at McLean's yet on the following lap, as Reece Gardner's trying around the outside before McLean's on the 842 of Linton Wills, and he will get up the inside and take the spot there. Wills is not looking to fight that one too hard, and in fact, well, he might just, thanks to what's happening here, actually get a chance to consolidate second place, because if Kyle really doesn't get back out on track and complete at least 4 laps here, he will not score championship points for this second race.
Yeah, so big aim for Ridley is to get back out there and do a couple more laps. Doesn't matter about his position, he just has to do laps and get back out there to make sure that he's
Wills
still
is deep
within
at the
contention.
S's. Almost ran into the back of Reece Gardner. Takes to the sand trap there to pick that one back up and clears that slow down without too much fuss. But he now leaves Reece Gardner with quite a bit of clean air ahead and behind. So that leaves the race leaders fighting for this position here on track. Into Goddard's they come once again. Stevens able to hang on for another lap, but, well, the gap went from sorry. It went from 2 seconds at the S's at the middle of lap 2 to 1 second by McLean's on lap 3. It's down to 3/10 into Redgate here at the start of lap number 4. And the reason why it is a 1.3 second lap delta in favour of Ray Oliver there. So, man is pushing incredibly hard and has, well, the fastest opening 2 sectors to his name on that last lap. But interesting enough, Kyle Ridley, his teammate, actually has the fastest sector 3 from when he was out on track on lap 1.
Even with that damage and a mechanical black flag, with damage to the steering arm, he still somehow it's the fastest sector. As here comes Oliver, thought about it, no, backs out of it. Of course, Oliver, lots of experience in this car, loves racing it. So he'll be looking to consolidate another victory in this series, which will almost put one hand on the championship trophy, you would think, as we've only got 1 round left in the Jetta Cup. Of course, that being Mount Panorama Bathurst, 30-minute race.
And actually, that's going to be an important thing to note. As up the inside of the S's goes Ray Oliver. There's a tiny touch between the two of them there, but the change of position is complete on the way out of the turn. And actually, it's a good point to make there because, yeah, well, we've just been reminded that, yes, a race win at Bathurst to end the season will be worth 450 points. And every race tonight here is worth 225 for all the support categories on these sprint rounds at least. And so with a margin of 249 points going into tonight's racing, and then having extended that margin a bit more in race 1, he won't be all the way clear as Linton will be.
Basically, we'll have to finish the race to win the championship.
It would require, yeah, it will basically be a non-issue there. It will take Ray Oliver crashing out and not finishing the race indeed. As a slowdown for Reece Gardner to serve sometime here down the hill after Redgate. That's not quite optimal for him. He'll be in no man's land, it would seem, but was closing in, unfortunately, on the top 2 as on board with the man. But you look at the steering angle he's still got in the car, trying to get it back to the racing surface. And despite venturing out that far into the dirt, he basically loses maybe 2/10 just by virtue of maintaining momentum.
I mean, he's used that line quite a lot in this race, hasn't he? He's been out there quite a lot between the two races and worked out how to maintain a fast pace through that line, through that section, through the old hairpin to keep the speed up out in the dirt. His pace is dropped a little bit. Last lap by, interesting to note, was Reece Gardner. He did a 1 minute 47.7. Compare that to Dan Stevens. He did a 149.5. Of course, there was the overtake for the lead, but even still, Dan Stevens' pace is nowhere near as good as it was in race 1.
Yeah, that is a good point to make there. Temperatures and conditions aren't all that different here in this one after the first race, given it was basically a straight turnaround, but keeping the gap at 0.6 to Ray Oliver and actually getting a tiny bit of a better drive off of the Melbourne hairpin on that particular lap there. So he's not going to let this go just yet, it would seem, if this pace now that he's in behind Oliver is anything to go by. A 147.7 versus a 147.7. So
they've changed the engine in 6.5 minutes.
Yes, apparently found some magic power, but actually that's a good point. For a second I thought you were talking about Dan Stevens, but there we go. The slightly miraculous return of Gavin Cox to the racing surface, although he's
just letting the other guys go, I think.
Yep, letting traffic through here. He is indeed. Through goes Aaron Gilbert, and Gavin Cox rejoins the racing surface. He is so many laps down, unfortunately, but he will get a chance to get enough laps on the board to score championship points as a.
Oh, Ridley has to get out there this lap to score championship points in this race.
He'll be on lap 2. I think he's got one more lap, just.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
he'll have to finish 5 laps, will he not?
It'll be 4. I think we have it so it's rounded down to the previous if it's an incomplete number.
It's rounded up, so either way, he's basically got to get out there very quickly.
Having an extra lap buffer margin would help, and that buffer margin is rapidly degrading here as your leaders come down into the S's. That was late on the brakes from Ray Oliver. That was too late on the brakes from Ray Oliver. And here comes Dan Stevens. He wants to lead back out of the S's. He got passed up the inside at this time here. He's going to be out-braked into the Melbourne hairpin. Speaking of coming out of the pits, indeed, Kyle Ridley has had his car repaired just in time to get back racing here as your leaders are on the end of lap number 6, side by side up into Goddard's. And Ray Oliver's going to have the inside off camber for Stevens. That surely will deal his fate for the time being, not able to hang on with the dropping camber. And Reece Gardner just smiles, and I think there's a smile inside that helmet that we can see in the mirror. As Stevens is looking to the inside at Redgate, but early on the brakes there. He's actually up the inside still, despite that there. And they're going to hold each other up through Redgate here. And Gardner's like, oh, yes, please. But he's going to go to the left side down the Carina curves. Put him on the outside for the old hairpin. Surely, no, rolls out of it, tucks back in line behind Stevens, allows Stevens to keep the pressure on Oliver down the hill here at the old hairpin. And, well, you said there was an engine change for Gavin Cox. I think there might have been an engine change for Dan Stevens too, as he was never able to get the gap to shrink to these down under some eSport mindset cars ahead of him in race 1. And now, all of a sudden, he's found something here, and he's not only keeping the gap inside, but he's keeping the pressure on and making some moves here.
Definitely is. He's applying pressure that Ray Oliver hasn't had in this race at all. He got into the lead relatively easy. I tell you what, understeer central from Dan Stevens. He's pushing. He's trying very, very hard to get this spot back. And remember, last lap by, Ray Oliver made a huge mistake here and let these boys back in.
Down into the S's this time. It's Dan Stevens later on the brakes. In fact, he's so late on the brakes, he actually closes the gap up quite nicely. He's in range to have a dive here at the hairpin. It's going to be an ambitious one. He does look to the outside. He's under brakes. He's coming. Here comes Stevens up the inside. Contact. Shunts Ray Oliver right out of the way. And I think Stevens is going to pull over here. He will pull over. And he's going to redress this. Yep, he's going to redress the spot, drop back into 3rd place. Reece Gardner in the 94 says, well then, I take your 3rd place and I raise you a 1st. And, well, he has the lead now for a couple of corners, but Ray Oliver is right there. And it's now kind of on Reece to actually back Ray Oliver up once again to allow the Stevens versus Oliver fight to, the Stevens versus Oliver fight to resume. And if he does, make sure to pinch the nose down at Redgate as they start the 8th lap of the race. They'll have 2 more to go here as they come around the circuit. And, yes, Kyle Ridley is actually just up the road from them, but he should still get the number of laps required to get points tonight. Important for his hopes to hang on to P. We'll get back to P2, but probably now hang on to P3 as as Linton Wills is pedaling around in a somewhat comfy P4, but his pace is a little bit off there at the moment. Might come under pressure from Ben Christensen right in the dying stages as Dan Stevens is pushing.
Will Ray Oliver actually get the braking zone right here? So 2 laps in a row, he hasn't got it right at the S's. 2 laps ago, way too deep. That lap just there, way too ginger. He was way too early. So I don't think it was Dan Stevens that was late on the brakes. I think it was Ray Oliver that was a bit too cautious going into here. This time, again, I think he's a little bit too ginger going in there because look, Stevens has closed the gap and Gardner's pulled away a tiny little bit. I think Ray Oliver's struggling a little bit with the car behaviour due to that damage through the S's there.
Oh, under brakes into the Melbourne hairpin. In fact, he tries to go up the inside of Gardner, finds dirt and a slowdown because he cut the apex too much.
No,
here at the Melbourne hairpin, the 99 is going to have to drop off here into Goddard's, and he'll clear it before he gets to the apex of the final turn, but it sets up now. Reece Gardner to take the white flag, has now a full lap under his belt, one more needed to seal the deal, but Stan Stevens is back to P2, and I'm sure he'd like one last chance to get back to the race lead that he was able to establish early on in this one here. Into Redgate for the final time. It's all fairly even between the two of them there. In fact, Gardner using all of the entry curb and all of the exit curb there, and confirmation there from race control. License point penalty, the number 1 of Dan Stevens for the contact and bump pass, noting the redress. Reducing the penalty there, and this time through the old hairpin.
Stevens is aggressive through there again, isn't he?
But Ray Oliver was much better through there, despite not taking the dirt. He's going to have to go the long way around up the hill to McLean's if he wants to find something here. Stevens going to park it up and, yep, break it up nice and early here. But the over-under from the 99. Here comes Ray Oliver. Has he got the inside for Coppice? He's close. He's thinking about it, but he's not quite there. And in fact, all it's doing is just giving Gardner couple of extra hundreds. The gap up to 0.8 of a second, but he actually loses time. He's losing a lot of time here. Reese, what's happening here?
Is he out of fuel? Oh, no.
No, Gardner! He's going to lose the lead. Was he banging off the limiter there in top gear?
I'm wondering if he's got an issue with either his shifter or he's got an issue with fuel. Changing gear.
And Stevens has gone slow at Melbourne hairpin. Have they underfueled the cars?
I reckon they've underfueled the car. Ray Oliver hasn't. He's gone. He's checking out.
Yeah, Stevens has got the same stuttering. Well, how about that? I didn't think we'd see it in the Jetta Cup. I was told the
not
fuel
in a 15-lap race.
No.
A 15-minute race.
Yep, Stevens is out of fuel. Is Reece Gardner even going to finish second? Linton Wills actually fallen back to a... Linton Wills is out of fuel as well.
No.
Half the field on the lead lap is barely going to make it to the line.
Crazy.
I can't believe my eyes.
Lucky it's downhill that final complex of quarters, but that's crazy to see how many drivers have underfueled the car by 1 lap. Plus, we saw about 40 seconds left on the clock, so they've underfueled it by a decent margin too. So, very surprising, but what a race that was. Highly entertaining, controversial, just as it always is in the Jetta.
I am...
You're lost for words.
Yeah, Reece Gardner and Dan Stevens confirming out of fuel at the end of that race. Well, yeah, I'm shocked and amazed. It'd be amused, but actually more just amazed there. So here's how the results look after what was a fascinating three-way fight for the win. It makes it look like it was easy pickings for Ray Oliver with a 4-second gap. Back to Dan Stevens in P2, and Reece Gardner limps at home, barely ahead of Ben Christensen for 3rd place. And as we said, there, Linton Wills, the other driver to run out of fuel at the end of that one there, drops from a comfy 4th place back to P6. Oh my goodness me. And Aaron Gilbert rounds out the top 5 there, in behind Christensen. And Gavin Cox and Carberry, after the damage there, both get 5 laps on the board there, which means that they will most definitely score championship points for that second race. And, well, that will make the fight between Wills and Ridley a fair bit more interesting going into the final round at Bathurst. And, well, as I said, it's been a long run of races here for the Jetta Cup. They've been at every support. They've been a support card at every round since the second at the Red Bull Ring. And now it's time for the supports to, well, the Jettas to take a short break from the supports calendar. You will see them back at the virtual racing school V8SCOPS Bathurst 1000 on Saturday, the 16th of September. It does seem like a while, but we've got plenty of action for the rest of the supports.
It's only 6 weeks away. Schedule 7 weeks away.
Well, that's a good point to keep in mind there too. Not far away from some of the biggest events in the iRacing ANZ community this year coming up then. We'll take another quick break here at SimSpeed TV and return in a moment's time with the final race for the 2 Litre Tourers here from Donington Park. Don't go anywhere, folks.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction, he's got everything outside of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Six very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my god.
God, what?
Well, we're back here at Donington Park Racing Circuit, pardon me there, for the final race now for the 2-litre Tourers here for the 9th round of the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series for 2022 here on SimSpeed TV. My name is Daniel Yeaman, Jay Kennedy alongside me on production and commentary. And, well, after possibly some of the most crazy racing results, I should say, we've seen in the Jetta Cup, now what was set to be a bit of a thrilling finish there, Jay, ended up being a thrilling finish for all the wrong reasons for half the drivers there on the lead lap at the end of that one.
That was crazy, wasn't it? We weren't expecting it to be a fuel race in the slightest. I mean, it's only 15 minutes in length, 9 laps, but somehow it ended up into a fuel mileage race, and half the field didn't cross the line under their own power on the loud pedal, just rolling across the line with no fuel. It was interesting to say the least, and will definitely change the complexion of the championship as they head in with one more round to go at the Mount Panorama circuit. But for the next round of the other two series, which is interesting to note, the V8s and the flat sixes, they'll be out on track next round along with the 2-litre Tourers. For the second time, we will run Friday and Saturday night coverage in the V8SCOPS Support Series from Phillip Island. It's going to be very, very cool.
Yeah, the return of the doubleheader format for the next couple of rounds here as part of the Endurance Cup program for the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS season this year. So yeah, will be interesting to get a read on that one there. But, well, longer racing, more strategy requirements, and I believe it'll be progressive grids for those ones there. Yeah. Unlike the full inverts that we've seen for these sprints for the most part of the season. So keep your eyes out for that one there. But, well, it's going to be interesting because at Phillip Island, it's all double headers. Actually, pardon me, double header at Phillip Island, and then we go back to sprints at Imola for the V8s and the flat sixes. And we're double header at Bathurst again. And then it's, well, the thing is, it's technically double header, but it's not quite, it's not officially
the same
called
format double header. Everyone's got a longer race at Bathurst.
Not quite. I'm having a read through, but how about it says next round of Phillip Island is a traditional double header like we saw at Montreal, and that will feature all three of the will feature the V8s, the flat sixes, and the 2-litre Tourers. From there, we head to Imola, and it's going to be our first endurance race for the support series that we've seen as part of the V8SCOPS broader calendar. So on Saturday, the 26th of August, the 2-litre Tourers who are out here on track tonight doing the little sprint race will be lining up for a 250-kilometre endurance race around Imola as the setup for the main race, the Imola 500, on the day after, on a Sunday, the Sunday 27th of August. And then we get to Bathurst, and surprise, surprise, the V8s will get their 250-kilometre race on the afternoon of Saturday, the 16th of September. And then, well, the Porsches, they're a little bit special, aren't they? Because they get something a bit different. In fact, we have ourselves a supports-only round coming up at the end of September.
Yeah, that'll be at Hockenheim in just the flat sixes. The Porsches will get out there. Pro-Am endurance race, 400-kilometre enduro. We were going to have one last year in the support series, but got changed last minute and a few modifications to the schedule. So decided against that one, but going to be very, very fun, very entertaining, and looking forward to that later on in the season. But next round is one that excites me. I love all of these cars at Phillip Island. Always some fun racing there.
Yeah, well, it certainly will be one to keep your eyes out for. And it isn't too far away. On a Friday and Saturday, August 5th and 6th is the dates for your supports racing. And, of course, Sunday the 7th as well for the main event, the Too Easy Finance Phillip Island 500 to get the V8SCOPS Endurance Cup underway. Well, there goes checkered flag here in the warm-up following the intermission for these races. So it's time to go to the grid for our final race in the 2-litre Tourers. Full invert means that actually our top 3 spots are all occupied by safety cars, thanks to the fact we have several drivers on hand to make sure we're sorted there. The pole position will go to Shane Best, technically starting, though, out of the 4th grid place. And he's joined by Isaac Edwards to his inside to make up our front row for this second race tonight. Brett O'Keefe starting out of position number 3 effective. We'll have Hayden Kirk alongside him for P quote-unquote 4. Then it's going to be Matthew Pluck and Mandela Pluck on our 4th row. Reese Gardner, Matthew Brunt on our 5th row. I have to say it's one of the hardest things to remember. Get this all right. Ben Faulkner and Ewan Baker on our 6th row. And Damon Mulqueen and Carl Sampson to round out our 12 drivers racing in this one. So that's 6 rows of cars, just offset by quite a bit here due to the way this one all works. Short timer on the grid. Turbo chirps aplenty. Revs rise. And we get the race underway here for the final event of the 2-litre Tourers at Donington Park. Everyone away clean, but a couple of guys better than others, and 3 wide almost down the front stretch. In fact, it is going to be 3 wide with Brett O'Keefe up the middle of your 2 guys on the front row. It doesn't work out. Isaac Edwards. Oh, Shane Best in the dirt. Who's up the inside? It's going to be Matthew Pluck. The 51 Kiwi sim racing car going to get on through. He's going to be followed through by Mandela Pluck. Looking to get past, and indeed O'Keefe. Oh, no contact between Hayden Kirk and Isaac Edwards. Kirk fired into the tyre bundle down the crane of curves. Trouble once again on lap 1. And another car this time. Oh, and the left rear bent. Kirk's not going to be able to get that car back to the pits either. We might just see the safety car out for a second time here on lap 1 of the 2-litre Tourist tonight.
Wow, that's controversial too, because it looked like everything was all settled and under control. And I'll tell you what, a few drivers probably know that there's a safety car coming, so they're trying to get aggressive and make moves as soon as possible, but nothing called as of yet. And right on cue, safety car is leaving the pit lane. Hasn't been officially called yet though.
Well, they're still going, so they'll want to call that safety car in a moment.
Maybe they're waiting for everyone to settle
down. Oh, Brett O'Keefe throws it through the S's. Safety car is called as he's trying to rejoin the circuit. And, well, Shane Best had a moment up at Coppice while we were worrying about all this. But your field is neutralised once again here on lap 1 in the 2-litre Tourist tonight. Let's go have a look at it all on the replay thanks to Virtual Racing School, starting here with turn 1. So Brett O'Keefe there in the middle, the 22 Audi up the middle of Shane Best and Isaac Edwards. He backs out of a bit. Isaac Edwards runs in deep, gets a rear end from O'Keefe. Oh, goodness me. Matthew Pluck, the luckiest man in the server there, it seems, up the inside of them all. And then down the hill we go. O'Keefe there you can see in the 22. And Isaac, it just... Oh, dear. Isaac just looks like very poor spatial awareness there. And from that angle, just drives straight across into Kirk with enough force to fire the 371 hard into the tyres on the right side down the hill of the crane of curves. Take a look at that one there again.
Realising how close he was to that car beside him, and give enough room. Off exit stage right for Hayden Kirk there.
Yes, indeed. Well, to look at it here on board with Ewan Baker in the 34 Kiwi sim racing entry. They come down the hill, 2 wide here in the crane of curves. And well, actually, from that angle there, it's more like they meet in the middle, Jay.
Yeah, that angle definitely made it look a lot better for
Kirk. For Isaac, yeah, there.
Isaac,
Kirk moving across to open up the entry to the old hairpin. Isaac moving slightly across, this time on board with Reese Gardner in behind. Down the hill they come. Let's see here.
That's definitely
that's still definitely looking like a meet in the middle circumstance. Edwards, though, definitely coming across a tiny bit to try and open the bottom of the crane of curves there.
It still looks bad for Isaac Edwards, but it didn't look as bad, those onboards, from what it did externally.
Yeah, that is a good point there indeed. Well, safety car is returning to the pit lane here. A short period once again, like we saw in race number 1 here. And now the full invert grid here tonight. For some reason, I'm calling a massive blank on whether we should expect these guys to be pitting for 2 tyres, which I think we should be. Yes,
yep.
As usual. It's a sprint race. And yes, indeed. Compulsory pit stop for at least 2 tyres here in this second race. And because the safety cars are pulled away from the field, they're not... Well, actually, they could come into the pits here on the race restart. This might be... Actually, does anyone go for the big brain play of pitting now here?
The likes of Damon Mulqueen would be in a good spot here to pit right now. Hasn't got through the field like some of the others did.
Well, race is in the hands of Matthew Pluck, the 51 machine for Kiwi Sim Racing. Coming up to Goddard's at the end of lap 2 of 20 here He's gone wide. He's going to straighten the exit, but Mandela Pluck goes with Ewan Baker, though. He's the first man straight to the pit lane on the green flag restart. There we go. Our first man in. There we go. Brett O'Keefe will follow in as well. They're the only two who take to the pit lane here to get their compulsory pit stop complete as the restart otherwise goes on as it normally would. It's going to be Pluck and Pluck. Matthew leading Mandela here for Kiwi Sim Racing in front of the field as Damon Mulqueen gets through on Isaac Edwards. Next man up the road for him is Ben Faulkner there on the 042. Carl Sampson already up into P5. And, well, this is going to be looking good for these guys here up the front. Oh, actually very curious to see how things go here. As up the hill they come, and there you go. Baker and O'Keefe out of the pits, 26 seconds and 24 seconds respectively for their service. Yes, they've got cold front tyres now, but, well, they're actually somewhat together. They might be able to work together there a little bit as they bring their cars back up to speed. And, well, yeah, if there's any time to do it, now is the time to do it, because these cars will also be trying to get their cars up to speed as well. But, well, drivers are looking good. Carl Sampson and Mandela Pluck looking to be the ones up to speed the fastest here at this stage of the race as they come through the S's and pushing the limits a little bit for some, but no off-tracks or slowdowns that I can see there, at least for this time, as they make their way down through the Melbourne hairpin here on lap 3.
I'm surprised Moore didn't take that opportunity to pit there, because you're going to come out and clear track with clear track regardless, so it wouldn't be a bad ploy. Those that had struggled to get through the field on lap 1, good chance to come in as, who is that coming in there? Carl Sampson in. I'm surprised, and have a look at who's responding. Isaac Edwards in. Isaac Edwards is one I'm shocked hadn't come in, because I was wondering if he had a little bit of damage from that incident at the start of the race. So I thought he may have come in earlier as Matthew Brunt gets past Reese Gardner, who's slow. He's lost 2 spots.
Well, that's interesting there indeed. So unexpected little dip there from the driver of the 94 as we try and... Oh, has he got the grass
He's done it again?
Well, not quite as bad, but yeah, maybe just catching just enough of a hint of the grass there into turn 1 at Redgate to, upset the car like we saw him do in race 1 where, well, it was a full-on slide, that one. Or was that just rear... Actually, I think that's just rear brake locking.
I agree.
Because he's not quite at the grass there, certainly using all of the entry he can, but I think that's just more of a, cold tyres still. Brake balance set rearward to maximize rotation, and the car just couldn't take it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's exactly what's happened there. Speaking of rear balance not being right, Matthew Pluck is going to give up the lead here to Mandela because he's thrown it through the chicane.
Or is he? Well, I don't think
that's some good defense.
He's not going to make it easy for Mandela here into the Melbourne hair. Look at the rears locking mid-apex. You don't see that too often, but that's how unloaded the rear wheels get in these guys. And, well, they're still fighting. I will be curious to see here. Ewan Baker, last tight lap around him, an outlap of a 148.6. He's just come out behind Carl Sampson, so this might work in his favour. He's now got warmer tyres, but does Sampson have enough speed? Look at this. Lane. Mandela Pluck, Ben Faulkner, Reese Gardner, and Damon Mulqueen all into the pit lane here at the end of lap number 4 as they respond to the guys already done their stops and back out on track. And does Ewan have something for Carl Sampson here? We know Carl's a good... He came into the pits from P5, so it was a little bit behind the race lead, but oh, look at that there. I think Sampson on cold tyres, pushing a bit too hard. Baker's got the nose ahead here, Jay, but the outside for Goddard here at the end of the lap, surely advantage Sampson as the camber will make the outside run very difficult here in a front-wheel drive car. Yes, it will.
Look at everyone coming out of the pits too, though. This is going to be very, very close. Mulqueen and Faulkner,
they're inside each other. So they come out ahead on track, but watch them get swallowed up here on this lap down the hill with cold tyres.
And Mandela Pluck has made an error in the pits. He's taken all 4 tyres, which has cost him an extra 12 seconds.
Oh no, for a driver who looks like they were pressuring so nicely for the race lead, he'll be on ice skates down the hill to boot. As our 3 guys here who are now fighting for the net race lead. It's Reese Gardner who's come out in front once again. Matthew Pluck will probably have prime pickings of it. Look at that there for Mandela on all 4 tyres cold. He just has nothing for Isaac Edwards even, who's going to swing around the outside up the hill towards McLean's, and he gets a nose ahead here and should have that one signed, sealed and delivered for now at least, until Mandela can get that car back up to speed. But look at how quickly Carl Sampson and Ewan Baker are closing these two down with that advantage of warmer tyres. 1 lap favour of Sampson. If Ewan Baker had gotten ahead, I reckon he would have absolutely monstered past these guys. This bad run through the S's for Ben Faulkner. Damon Mulqueen takes needs no further invitation up the inside for the Melbourne hairpin. A bit deep there on the brakes, but that just allows him to make that a very comprehensive pass for net P2 as Shane Best is in the lane. He should drop behind these guys. Here's what it looks like.
We just talked up how good a move Isaac Edwards made here on Mandela Pluck.
Oh, what did he do?
Watch what's happened as soon as we cut away from him after talking up his good move. He's thrown it all away, lost all of the ground, given up the spot.
So, fine through McLean's. Going to get to Coppice and oh dear.
Yes, sir. Don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall. He's okay.
Yes. Samir, he's not breaking the car, he's just driving the wrong way. And I don't have one for saying that. Unless I just get out the iRacing sport saying, you're going the wrong way. So unfortunately, it's for Edwards there.
A little bit of Aussie Greg Hill.
Well, Mandela Pluck was probably inevitably going to get through as Reece Garner, once again, employing himself as the resident lawnmower for the 2-litre Tourers here tonight, although I feel like every single one of these guys has done a bit of lawn mowing here this evening.
Dan Stevens wants the lawnmower title for tonight.
That is true. I think he does. Or has he just claimed the grass outside of the old hairpin exclusively? And
I might just use a little patch.
Yeah, and Reece is making a claim for the grass there on the outside of McLean's, although it's a bit more gravel and dirt where he was going in particular. But jokes about lawn mowing aside, Carl Sampson up the inside of Ben Faulkner at the Melbourne hairpin. He doesn't have the job done, though, as Faulkner's going to get around the run around the outside here and have the apex for Goddard's. Now, surely Sampson here, we've seen the car on the outside get hung out to dry around this turn, and yeah, he tries, but he's got no response there. The Faulkner, it's close though. Ewan Baker comes back into the mix, but these guys are all still here, and they are still the net leads of the race. Matthew Pluck and Matthew Brunt still staying out on the circuit for now. So they're going to try and go for a short final stint perhaps, but well, either way they put it, these cars' tyres, unless they're pushing too hard here in this phase, Jay, they won't wear down. The TCR cars that don't do that, but what they can do if you overdrive the car is you can overheat the tyres, and that will send your grip off the face of the earth, just like a cliff, if you happen to push it a bit too hard there.
That's almost worse too, doing that, because what it does, it gives you a couple of laps where your pace is no good, and then you end up neutralising your pace back down. It's a mistake for Faulkner there. He's going to lose the spot here. But yeah, hyperheating your tyres is worse than a natural progression of degradation, because you get the pace back and it just makes you angry because you've made a mistake and it's cost you positions. Whereas natural degradation, well, that's the same for everyone. Making the mistake and hyperheating, that's all on you.
Yeah, well, Sampson had the move done, but Faulkner's gotten back around. Again, the outside run through these turns for Ben Faulkner tonight. That 042, it can do it on the outside of the Melbourne hairpin. It can now do it around the outside of Coppice. It's got some moves in it, and it allows Ewan Baker up the inside under brakes. That's a send and a half though from Baker, and he's going to absolutely give that one back up straight away to Carl Sampson there on the exit of the hairpin.
I like the ambition, but I didn't like the execution.
No, we need more stopping power from that Honda there if it wants to be making those kind of moves in the future. No takers for the lane, so Pluck and Brunt, the two Matthews here this evening, continue on their merry way around the track tonight. Approaching the halfway distance, so maybe they're a bit concerned about the hyperheating and they want to have, less tyres or less tyre.
Well, one thing they've got right now is clear track. So that's the plus that they've got. They pit now, they're going to come out with traffic one way or another. At least now they're running their own race, maintaining pace. Safety car can still come out. They can time it perfectly, come into the pits while everyone else is battling, losing ground. So I'm sure that that's playing into their minds, but they are losing ground to this entire pack right now.
Yes, that will be important to note. And we'll see how things play out later on in the race. They're going to have to come to the pits soon, surely, if they want the tyres to make their advantage, because they're losing about 4/10 in the last lap. Matthew Brunt is going to respond and get his pit service completed here. And, well, no better time than the present, because you can see there, laps back and forth, but now up to half a second. It's starting to push. That certainly sounds like a bit of a sign of the times. Side by side between Sampson and Faulkner once again. This time, though, Sampson in nice and deep, covers off the outside. Faulkner not able to do what he normally does. Ewan Baker has half a look up the outside of Faulkner, but he knows he's not going to have an option. But can he get the over-under into Goddard's? Almost. Has to settle for a tap to the bumper. But Faulkner in the dirt there as here comes Matthew Brunt. Reece Gardner's going to jump him here in the pit lane. Mulqueen out in front, but he's going to clear these three guys. But for how long? Just you wait for Carl Sampson to hunt down that Audi on fresh tyres, as Ewan Baker still trying to find a way through on Ben Faulkner. He's trying down the inside of the Carina curves. He's there. They bump down the hill. They still keep the overlap between them here. Baker now surely late on the brakes for the old hairpin. Is the crisscross on for Faulkner? No, it's not. Unable to contest. Baker finally gets the job done in the 042.
Now, the gap between Matthew Brunt and Matthew Pluck was 2.3 seconds pre-pit stop. 2.3 seconds ahead of Matthew Brunt right now is where Damon Mulqueen is. So if Matthew Pluck pits now, has a perfect stop, he will come out right with Reece Gardner and Damon Mulqueen for the lead of the race. He probably wants to pit this lap.
Well,
and he doesn't.
Now, oh, well, there you go. You've been cool.
That ruins that theory.
And, well, let's see how things go for these guys here. So,
oh, big dive.
Dive from Kyle Sampson on Matthew Brunt. He's not waiting around here on the 134. He wants his spot. He wants his clean air, and he's not going to be stuck waiting for the driver of the 134 to get his tyres heated up here. So through Goddard they go, and already starting to make a nice margin. And well, yeah, no surprises there, because he's got himself almost 3 seconds. Actually, sorry, over 3 seconds to make up, as Faulkner trying back on Ewan Baker here at the back of this group. Not able to get up the inside, though, in time for turn one.
He made it very, very well there, did Ewan Baker. He just cut off the nose right at the perfect point, gave enough room, but literally at the point of just enough room. There wasn't any extra he could have given, and he didn't need to, obviously, but he's done very, very well there to make sure that he didn't make contact with Ben Faulkner. Faulkner did lose a bit of momentum. Now he's going to have to do all of the hard work again.
Yeah, and speaking of drivers struggling a little bit here, Matthew Brunt dive from Ewan Baker at Copper's Corner after a slight wobble on the exit of McLean's. Job done for the 34. He's through as well. And now Ben Faulkner would like his slice of the pie, but Brunt's going to hold the defensive line on the way down to the S's and force Faulkner to back out and set the run up for the Melbourne hairpin. With the corner they go, and all calm and normal there between those three. So they shall probably settle in as they were here down into the hairpin. They come. Yes, they will not change position this time by still no pit stop from Matthew Pluck, but we are coming to the end. Well, actually, under halfway remaining in this race for your race leader. The guys here with their pit stop complete, coming across the line to start the second half of the race here as they head on through, and Gardner still leading. And look at this here. Crucial time to bring this up, continuing to pull half a second at a time out of your race leader. There is surely no way Reece Gardner comes out in anything but the lead of the race once this pit cycle finally completes itself.
Yeah, exactly right. At this stage, it looks like Pluck will come out maybe in third behind Mulqueen, in between Mulqueen and Sampson. Yeah. But in saying that, Sampson's pace that he had in race one should mean that he'll close this gap up. But at the moment, Mulqueen is the fastest car on track. Interesting to note that Reece Gardner hasn't registered an official lap time other than the lap time under the safety car. Every other lap has had an off-track incident at some point.
Well, that's a curious thing to note there. Actually, having a look at pit lane transit times for most of the drivers, they're about 40 to 41 seconds. Your race leader is still 40 seconds ahead of the two here, although you can see on your timing it's just dipped inside 39. So maybe keeping an eye on things, and that was close, but still,
okay.
it was still okay. Pluck continues to keep going here. So he's lapping consistently there in the 137s, but yeah, Gardner and Mulqueen behind in the mid-36s. Surely, at this point, he can only afford one more lap. He definitely slots into P3 at this point. But if he waits any longer, he'll be under some serious pressure out of the pits from Carl Sampson.
Yeah, that's the car he's probably going to worry about now.
And look at that there.
Sampson.
And yeah, same kind of deltas, nearly 4/10 on lap 9, over half a second on lap 10. And it's just being absolutely ripped out of him as Carl Sampson set the fastest, no, not quite the fastest official lap of the race, but second best official in the race. Quite nicely there for Sampson in clean air. 36.492. The fastest still with Mulqueen on the 36.455. But he's currently stuck in behind Gardner as they climb up to McLean's here on lap number 12 of 20 in this race now. Race leader coming up to Goddard's. That's how far ahead he is as these guys come through Coppice. Surely Matthew Pluck, you're onto the pits this time by. No.
Interesting to see if anyone's talking to him and telling him about the delta that he's losing. He may not notice it when he's looking at his timing screen. He may not have that information available to him, but if he's got no one in his ear telling him, he may not know that how much ground he's losing at the moment.
Yeah, that's an interesting point to make there, actually.
Falcon just got through there on Brunt.
And Brunt tries to get the spot back down into the Melbourne hairpin, and actually he will, because Faulkner's gone 6 miles deep under brakes, and he tries to get around. If actually saying on, I can't believe it. Actually, we're going to have to stay on the replay if we can, even though it's going to be a lengthy one, because when we get down to the Melbourne hairpin, it's worth a watch too. As well, that was some interesting driving from the pair of them. So just the Hyundai in the slipstream, and has just got a little bit more power down the straight here as we head to the S's. Brunt rolls out a little bit early, says, yep, can't fight you there, but I can try and keep the pressure on out of the Melbourne hairpin. And then watch this here, under brakes from Ben Faulkner.
That's deep, that's deep, that's deep, that's committed, that's committed.
And then wait for it.
Oh, how did he get that drive? Did he have a turbo button or a NOS button or something?
I couldn't tell you. There was a slight touch of contact.
That's bizarre how much pace he found there.
He was in so deep, he straightened the car out so early, I think, that he just put the foot down. The car said, yeah, okay, I'm going. And it just responded.
Here he comes.
Finally, the race leader brings it down onto the pit lane.
He's going to come out right with Carl Sampson, if not, just behind him.
Ooh, well, this will be curious. My Delta said 42 seconds before he backed off into the pit lane. And with a transit time of 40 to 42 seconds, depending on how good you are at hitting your marks and how good your virtual pit crew are at getting the pit service done, yeah, he certainly loses out to your net race leader, unless he's tried to time this and thinks he can still come out in front. Surely that's the plan here, is to maybe come out in front of Gardner.
At worst, come out in between Gardner and Mulqueen.
Yeah, he's down. Pluck is rolling once again, and he's halfway down the pit lane here. This actually might be close on exit. No, Reese Gardner will get him here into turn one. It'll be close, but he will clear him quite comfortably. And Mulqueen too, indeed. So, yeah, quite comfortably. So, if he'd come in the pits about two laps early. Yeah, I reckon 3 laps too late there, to be certain, because it's
3 laps he'd be ahead, 2 laps he would have been right with them. Like, it may be in between them, which wouldn't be a bad place to be.
It would give Gardner a leg up there, I think.
If he came out behind, like in between Gardner and Mulqueen, he would have given up the spot to Mulqueen when he was getting his tyres up to temp. By the time they were up to temp, he would have been in the draft.
Yes, well,
now he's going to lose the spot to Sampson here.
Cold tyres, absolutely nothing that Matthew Pluck can do to a car that is well and truly warmed up. And
the other part of this too is, last lap by, Sampson half a second quicker than Mulqueen. He was closing the gap down. He's just lost all of that advantage trying to get past his teammate.
Yeah, well, looks like there are no friends at KSR when it comes to the strategy in these races tonight. As back on board with the man in P2, number 42 of Damon Mulqueen there. Looks quite nice down the back stretch into the S's, but a slightly better or more aggressive, perhaps, safe to say it that way, line from Gardner means that he just ekes out a slight margin. But, well, Fusion Sim Racing leads Synergy Sim Racing, leads Kiwi Sim Racing, Kiwi Sim Racing, and Kiwi Sim Racing to round out your top 5 here at this stage. 6 laps to go as, oh dear, Matthew Pluck actually took to the grass on the inside of Goddard's to a bit worried potentially about Ewan Baker behind, who was in a little deep, but nothing too crazy there, I would have thought. But, well, evasive
Baker hasn't
measures.
been scared of pushing the commitment, has he? He's been quite okay with pushing the limits and trying to do something that nobody else is doing, isn't he? He's happy to push that boundary.
Yeah, and fastest man on circuit last time was Damon Mulqueen. Ewan Baker, a close second, is up the inside of the old hairpin. Takes a bit of dirt on the apex for good measure, but, well, probably a 1x for his troubles. But job done on Matthew Pluck as they climb the hill to McLean's. Can maybe go after Carl Sampson one last time, but, well, the man with the oldest tyres in the field, hopefully he's not feeling the burn and has a little bit left in the car to go after these guys.
5.5 laps to go still, so still plenty of racing left. And we heard from Reece Gardner after the last round these guys had that the win at Motegi was his first ever win in these cars, considering the amount that he loves racing the front-wheel drive cars on iRacing. The fact that that was his first ever win in these cars was astounding to me. He looks like at this stage he might be able to do just enough to hold on, but remember we said that Mulqueen was looking to make a move on Carl Sampson on the last couple of laps last time. He'll be trying to do that same thing this time. Reece has got a pretty strong defence though, and you can see already starting to weave across the track to try and hold this position.
Narrow entry into red gate here. 5 to go back at the line, and enough of a gap back to Carl Sampson that Reece is willing to set up for or apply for the position of Minister of Defence, it would seem here at Donington tonight. So down to the old hairpin we go, but just looks like Mulqueen a little bit more composed, getting the car where he wants a little better there that time by, as they then make the climb up to McLean's. And once again, narrow entry from Gardner, a little bit more defensive. Actually hits the apex curve a little better in that particular time though. Mulqueen a little wider out despite the narrow entry. Through Coppice, pretty line astern for the two of them. And down the back stretch here to the S's once more. And we'll see here who has the better run through the S's on this particular time. The answer is basically a dead heat, slightly in favour of Mulqueen. So, you know, too far back to make anything of it at this particular run, but get the car pulled up, hit your marks, power down. Don't let Carl Sampson get too close because he has gained about a half a tenth at this point in the lap, and keep him at bay for as long as possible before the fighting properly begins.
So look at the inroads he was making. 3/10 and 6/10 on lap 13 and 15. That's to Gardner. But that overtake that he had to make on Matthew Pluck cost him half a second. Plus you take away the half a second that he's been faster as well. Another 4/10 on that lap. I think he's going to fall maybe 2 laps short, which is the difference that Matthew Pluck and in getting past him may have cost Carl Sampson.
Well, that will be interesting to keep
That'll
our
be an
eyes
interesting
on.
discussion that they'll have post-race, if that's the case.
Yes, well, all things to consider, but, well, the pressure that Mulqueen is continuing to apply to Reece Gardner here, I think might just give Sampson the way in here. And, well, Sampson, every other lap apart from that one there, having to clear teammate Pluck. 36.2 seems to be his jam, whereas these guys here lapping in the 36.6s. And Mulqueen a fraction behind, 36.8 last time around. So those kind of margins, he's cut a little bit more time out of lead, but only about 3/10. But look at this here, defensive from Gardner into the Melbourne hairpin. Mulqueen's going to have to try and straighten this one up and go the long way around.
And every lap that Gardner has to be defensive, that's more time that plays into Sampson's favour.
And up into Goddard's here. And who's got the better run? It's really struggling with the exit out of Goddard's, I'd have to say. The car looks to really just sort of stop rotating in the midpoint of the turn, and it gives Samson an easy 10th through that corner alone. And that wasn't defensive, really, per se, from Reese. And, yeah, when the timing updates here, we should see the 17 gap. You can see it's another 3/10. And, yeah, he needs more. He needs the 2 ahead to properly fight. 3 to go at the line. 2.6 seconds the margin as they make their way down the crane of curves to the old hairpin. And that time through the corner, both of the leading two getting their car over the apex curb there quite nicely, making sure to get a good run up the hill to the McLeans this time by.
Not many more legitimate overtaking opportunities for Mulqueens, and not many more positions that Gardner needs to defend. But he will try and defend every single spot that he feels like there is a minor advantage in favour of Mulqueen. He wants this win, wants to get himself back in the championship fight. Mulqueen's trying to do the exact same thing. It's going to be an interesting battle all the way to the end.
He's got good pull in a straight line behind Gardner to the S's, and that's deep from Gardner through the S's. He pushes to try and hang on to the spot, but that just allows Mulqueen to close. And here comes, well, I'm looking at the timing. It's gone from 2.6 into 2.2. That's been massive for Carl Sampson. He's picked up 0.4 of a second. In fact, it's down to 0.6 of a second in the lap alone as a result of that there. Equal in Sector 1, 10.5 in Sector 2.
You can see visually how much closer he is.
0.2 in Sector 3. And then Sector 4 here is going to be very painful for Mulqueen and Gardner as they come across the line. 36.9, 36.8. 36.2 again. He finds the pace when he needs it, but he's going to have to find a little something else. But he needs that kind of margin for the next 2 laps. And
Needs
he
a
might
second
just
this
have.
lap.
Yes, he does need even more time. You're not wrong. He needs to bolt that another 36.2, and he needs to pray that Gardner really feels the pressure here on the penultimate lap of our final race for the 2-litre Tourers here tonight at Donington Park. Up the hill they come from the old hairpin. Steady as she goes for the front 2 here this time. Gardner really trying to make sure that car is covering off any options up through McLean's. A little wide of the apex, but he carries enough speed through the turn to hold on nicely here. Coppice up next here. What does he do? Up on the curb on entry, over the curb through the apex. Power down looks all right here, so getting back in the rhythm. Making sure he's not bleeding too much time, but fastest Sector 2 of anyone goes to Carl Sampson on the last lap, and personal best Sector 1 as well. He gets more time out of these front 2. S's this time by. That's more tidy than what we would expect from Gardner through there. Mulqueen a little bit more passive through the run through the corners. And Carl Sampson, his advanced stalls as a result, not able to suddenly find chunks of time on the front 2, but under brakes into the Melbourne hairpin. He picks up a bit of time on the way in. Looks like, though, he will actually still keep a bit of that time he's gained on the way in, despite slightly slower exit initially here. Goddard's for the second last time.
Sector times for Sampson. Green,
2
purple,
purples.
purple.
He's quick, but I don't think it's going to be enough. He cuts the gap to 1.3.
Wow,
For the race lead, it's 3
35s.
purples. He goes to a 35.808. The fastest lap by far. Another man, but as you said, Gardner has picked up the pace just enough here to be safe. Mulqueen should be safe here as well, even if they go all out. But if they go all out, Sampson is certainly in with a shot. But if there's any...
You're going to have to wait until the end of the lap.
If there's any solid but sensible moves from Mulqueen, I think one of these two here is safe from Sampson. And the other one obviously comes out the other side, the victor. So up to McLean's. Gap still 1.2 seconds from your race leader back to P3. We'll keep the eye on here. This is the fight at the end of the race. Up into Coppice for the final time. And it's steady between these 3. Mulqueen is close, but he's surely not close enough. Gardner will cover it off just in case for the first part of the run down the backstretch. He knows, though, he's not under pressure this time. He comes across. Set the run up for the S's this time here. Make sure he hits the marks. Wide entry. Narrow exit. Tick, tick, tick for the 94 as he comes down to the Melbourne hairpin. It will have to be one heck of a send from Mulqueen here out of P2. Sampson's inside a second on the race lead, but still I don't think it'll be enough. Deep on the brakes from Sampson there in 3rd place, but they drive out of the corner nice and steady there, Jay. One more turn to go here for the 2-litre Tourist tonight. It should be Reese Gardner's race to lose. Carl Sampson gets close in the mirrors for Mulqueen, but they come around the corner as they were. And, well, after a rough bit of racing this year for Rhys Garner. That's 2 races on the trot in the 2-litre Tourers category, if I'm remembering correctly, I should say.
2 feature race wins in a row.
Indeed. And the rest of our field makes their way across the line. Matthew Pluck just ahead of Ben Falcon in the other battle pack that unfortunately we missed out on. And unfortunately for Mandela Pluck, those extra tyres he took in this race, unable to recover from that. He will finish back in 8th place. And, well, it says he started in P7.
Technically P4.
Technically P4, yes. Important to note there. So, unfortunately, a slip down the order for him in that race tonight. And, well, there's one driver left to come across the line. Isaac Edwards, a bit of a rough run for him. And it looks like very similar circumstances once again. And decides to bring it to the line and scrub those tyres right up until the end of that race. But that is the chance to now run through the results here in the 2-litre Tourers feature race. Rhys Garner hangs on for the win there ahead of Damon Mulqueen and Carl Sampson. And, well, with 0.7 of a second the margin at the end of that race, I think, yeah, Carl Sampson ruining the day that Matthew Pluck decided to go long on tyres and come out of the pits right in front of him there. Ewan Baker sneaks on through to, well, actually gets quite clear of Matthew Pluck at the end phase of the race, but not able to go with Sampson to hunt down the top 2. But I think a 4th place finish for him, he'll be quite happy with that one there. Pluck, as we said there, back into 5th place ahead of Ben Faulkner at the line, pretty close between those two, only less than 0.3 as it was. Next man there was Matthew Brunt, the 134. That Synergy Audi just seems to sort of fade away there at the end. Jay finishes in 7th, but well clear of Mandela Pluck there in 8th. Shane Best, after unfortunately retiring from race 1, hangs on for a 9th place finish ahead of Brett O'Keefe in 10th. Your final finisher in the race was Isaac Edwards over the board, over the screen there in 11th, I should say. And unfortunately for Hayden Kirk, he retires from that race with damage terminal on lap 1 there. Well, we now await a chance to actually speak to a couple of the drivers tonight who finished on the podium in that race. And we do have one waiting for us, Jay. So start the chat with the man who picked up seconds all around tonight, Mr. Damon Mulqueen in the number 42 Hyundai TCR. Well, definitely a good pace from you tonight, Damon. Just not quite enough in race 1 for Carl, but you were on his back all the way there. And quite the same there for race in race 2. How was the car feeling out there for you tonight?
You know, the guys at Synergy Sim Racing provided me with a pretty top-notch Hyundai Elantra there for the racing tonight. Can't thank them enough. But yeah, 2 seconds. Not ideal, but you know, take what we can. I don't want to, with me missing the first 2 rounds of the series, I don't want to go in and ruin anyone's championship battles and stuff. So I'm not looking at doing anything silly like sending half attempted moves and stuff. So I'm quite happy and content to sort of, you know, sit back in second and wait for a mistake if they come. So yeah, it's been a good couple of rounds. Haven't actually raced against Rhys in these before, so it's actually sort of good to find out how he drives the car and where you can pick up bits and pieces, and you know, it just helps build the racecraft and respect between hopefully both drivers.
Yeah, well, it was definitely some good stuff from you both out there tonight, and also yourself and Carl in race number 1. From your seat tonight, I mean, yeah, obviously you're right there with both of those guys in both races. Was there any spots that sort of felt like you were able to notice where you were stronger than the others, the guys that you were racing tonight? Places perhaps where you maybe needed to find a little bit of an improvement to help sort of get more out of where you were gaining, and sort of not have it balance out over the course of a full lap?
I think really that both Rhys and Carl, their cars set up beautifully well, and I reckon we're all on about the same level when it comes to driver ability. So it's probably really difficult to actually pinpoint exactly where, because there's so many wee spots around the track where you can make time, you can lose time, but it all probably balances out at roughly the same. So whether or not, you know, can actually improve on that over the other two guys that you're racing, it's pretty hard to do. And, you know, in the heat of battle, you're prone to make mistakes here and there. So I've had a few of those tonight, nothing too major, which is a good thing. And, you know, to come home with 2 seconds tonight is pretty bloody good.
Well, the 2-litre Tourers will be back in action for the next round of V8SCOPS when the Endurance Cup kicks off at Phillip Island. Any thoughts about the combination there as we head into that double-header format round, which will see us racing across Friday and Saturday night in our Support Series categories?
Yeah, it's going to be a long weekend for me, driving both the 2-litre Tourers and the flat sixes. So yeah, it's going to be a crazy week. And the build up to that, you know, jumping between both cars, you know, trying to maximise the most out of them that I can for both series is going to be an interesting one. But it's a challenge I'm worth taking on. I've had to jump between 2 cars in a previous series before. So, you know, we'll give it a good solid crack and take whatever we can.
Well, before we let you go, Damon, who else would you like to thank for tonight's result?
As I said already earlier, you know, the guys at Synergy Sim Racing, they provide us with, you know, really good cars, and in Scops itself, we've been doing pretty well. So just a huge thanks to them, and then to all of our sponsors. I've got a huge list of them, but I'll narrow out some of them, where else it'll take far too long. So I'm just got to thank the guys at Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions. They're the main sponsor on the car here for me. Pretty good to be able to support them and do what I can on the track for them. Wave Runner Performance Centre, Dr. Epoxy, DGD Customs, the Australian Lamination Company, DM Scintigraphy, DO Photo, Aussie Mechanical Repairs, It's a Dog's Life, JK Signs, Newlon, 88 Media, and Aftershock PC. You know what, I just went through the whole lot of them. It's easier.
Well, indeed, an impressive roll call there for the boys at SSR. Seconds all round for Damon Mulqueen, and well done to him for the racing this evening. And a chance now to speak, Jay, with our race winner here in the feature, Mr. Reese Gardner. Well, maybe a bit of a mixed fortunes there, Reese. Race 1, unfortunately, found the grass on the way into Redgate early on, which saw you tumble back down the order, but an excellent recovery, and despite the safety car, holding off the pressure from Damon there to seal the win in the feature tonight.
Yeah, really good night, I think, all things considered. Yeah, race 1, I came into this with not much practice, so I was still getting used to the car as race 1 was going on, and I still hadn't quite worked out the whole pit exit use into turn 1 thingamajig. But hey, race 2, I figured might as well pit after I found the grass again into Redgate, because I'd already lost that time, and turned out to be the right call.
Yeah, I mean, we were certainly watching the strategies unfold there. A couple of drivers opting to pit really early. Actually, one driver opting to come in straight off the safety car restart there, given that it was at the short safety car there on lap 2. Did that ever come into mind at all for you there, potentially pitting while the tyres were still a little bit cold, perhaps, there at the start, to just get the cold tyres on as soon as possible, given the way they take a bit of time here in the TCR to heat up when you change tyres?
Yeah, I did think about that. I was thinking aloud, you know, should I go in at the end of the safety car, considering that's when the pit window opens. I decided though just to stay with them, because I was afraid that I would come out and have to work my way through traffic if I decided to pit that early. But yeah, then I adjusted on the fly to jump on in just after I had my little spin.
Right, yeah. Then when I guess having Damon there behind you basically all race, trying to keep the pressure on you there from start to finish, and able to manage it all there tonight. I guess, was there any spots on the track you felt like maybe you had a bit of an advantage over Damon? Any places there where you sort of felt under pressure in return? And while it all ended up balancing out, was there sort of things you were hoping to try and do to maybe try and sort of neutralize the difference in one spot, and therefore keep the gain somewhere else on the track tonight?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, definitely. The Melbourne hairpin turned out to be where I had a good advantage over Damon. in race 2. The chicane just before it as well, Fogarty S's. I spent a couple of laps saving up some off tracks so I could potentially push a bit harder through there. Turns out I didn't really need to, because one of my fastest runs through there late in the race, I didn't get an off track at all. But I think Damon definitely had the edge over me coming out of McLean's for sure, and definitely out of Goddard's the last corner. I think that's the one corner that I was not able to get a satisfactory run through tonight.
Well, not long now until we'll see the 2-litre Tourers back as part of the supports roster, the double headers as we head to the beginning of the V8SCOPS Endurance Cup at Phillip Island. Another fast and flowing circuit, and you'll be able to focus on the 2-litre Tourers there as we won't see the Jettas back for some time. Any thoughts on the combination for you there?
Well, last time I raced TCR at Phillip Island, it went absolutely horribly for me, so I'm not optimistic, but I'll still give it a red-hot go. I think I'm in a really good spot with the car, and with the setup I've got on it at the moment, I seem to have a good handle on it, so we'll just see how it treats me. Phillip Island is not a track that really suits front-wheel drive. It's not very pleasurable, to say the least, but I'll still do my best.
Well, before we let you go, Reece, who would you like to thank tonight for the result here in the feature?
Just all the guys at Fusion Sim Racing. Thanks very much for your support over the years, and iRap Designs, who painted our spectacular livery.
Well, there we are. Reece Gardner with the win in the feature race of the 2-litre Tourers tonight. And, well, there is the... probably shouldn't have done that better. There is the next date here for the 10th round, or event 10 for the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series. And yes, the double header, Friday the 5th, Saturday the 6th of August for those categories. The V8s, flat 6s and 2-litre Tourers will all be in attendance across the action. 70k race 1, 90k race 2, and compulsory pit stops on the Saturday for all those classes as well. But progressive grids for the double header format, J, will mean that things will be just a little bit different, unlike these 80k sprints that we've had for the most part this year so far. Road America. Yes, indeed. Well, that'll do us here for tonight as we say goodbye to the supports and get ready for the main game on Sunday evening. 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time is when we'll go live for round 9 of the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS Series in 2022. The Too Easy Finance Donington Super Sprint will be on the cards then, but we've also got plenty of action here at SimSpeed TV. Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup qualifying series and iRacing Grand Prix Series bright and early on Sunday morning there as well. And NTE Series also will be on Sunday evening as well here on SimSpeed. So Sunday is pretty fully booked for us here, but you'll find me here on the commentary for V8SCOPS as usual. Thank you all very much for watching and joining us tonight, or joining us on the replay on YouTube. My name is Aaron Yeaman, Jay Kennedy alongside me on commentary and production for this evening. Hope you have a good one for now, folks. It's certainly bye for now, but not forever. And take care in the meantime.
What does it take to win? Is it something you're born with? Is it the grind? Every day. Gear up. Do battle. For the 10,000th time. Or is it pushing to your absolute limits? To be faster. Always faster. Insanely precise. Totally free and at one with the game. Or maybe it's just getting to that place where nothing else matters. Nothing in the way of winning.